special in the old city.
All right,
Well, it
I
hasn't
will,
been robbed, so. Probably not.
I will call this meeting of the Tinmouth Select Board to order on Thursday, December 8th at 5:30. Welcome, everyone. I think we can quickly review the agenda and the minutes, and then we'll move right into the Ethan, our illustrious guest Ethan is going to talk to us about the speed study. I did have some minute edits, which were minor, and they're somewhere in this file. Anyone, any comments on the agenda? For those of you who are here, anything you want to request we move up or? Everybody's good?
Yes.
I didn't have any edits. I
Okay.
didn't catch anything.
No, I think that's cool.
Rather than go through all of my picky little edits, I will just, with your permission, give them to Gail and you can decide to use them or not. I trust you. So with that,
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Yeah, second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We've reviewed the agenda. We've accepted the minutes. Welcome.
So I guess just to start off, I don't have a ton to present on, partially because I was hoping to sort of get a sense of the traffic safety concerns that you guys are perceiving, because according to the study, there aren't a ton of huge issues regarding speed limits, apart from a couple drivers that are going insanely high over the speed limit. But unfortunately, those drivers are not people who tend to be paying attention to speed limits regardless. So
Right,
that kind of
maybe,
behavior is not really going to be curtailed by a speed limit. And I think if that's the key issue, then enforcement is probably, there's really only two ways to really slow drivers down, is enforcement or changing the roadway geometry so that people drive slower. Because long straight roadways will basically act kind of like racetracks. That's how we design interstates, as straight as possible and as gentle as curves, and they're to make sure that people can travel high speeds safely. So for example, just driving here on 130, the section that is really curvy, I slowed down and was driving like 40-45 miles an hour, even though the speed limit's 50, just because the roadway geometry made it difficult for me to do that. So I guess
so maybe just some context. The 4 locations where we asked Sherry in our behalf, ask you to set the survey equipment. 3 of those were direct complaints from citizens who live in those areas who are terrified because of the speed people are going.
I think they actually want, sorry to interrupt, they want the speed limit low.
Low.
Mhm.
They all want the speed limit lower. That's fair to say. The exception to that is the East Road, which is the only road that does not have a 50-mile speed limit, because we went through this process many years ago and lowered it to 45. And our sheriff's department representative is recommending that we increase it because people are generally driving faster than the speed limit. And I can tell you, I would be shocked if the people on that road supported it, because they already say that cars go too fast. And part of our challenge is that we're a rural community where you often see people out walking or running or riding bikes. And we're also, many of these locations are locations where people are driving through. They're driving to the school, they're driving from the school, they're driving from Dorset and Danby North on the East Road. And so we have this conflict. And we regularly, not a million, but we regularly get requests from people that say the speed limit is too fast on my road, by my house, etc. So that's the context.
Yeah, well, I guess to that, I would just say that people may complain about the speed limit, but I think really what the heart of it is they're complaining about the speed of the cars. And you have to ask if changing the speed limit is going to lower the speed. And I think generally all the research shows that if you don't do anything to the roadway geometry and you don't increase any extra enforcement whatsoever of that, then people will generally drive at the speed in which they feel comfortable driving at, according to the roadway geometry. So it's certainly possible to lower the speed limit, but you're probably being told to increase it by the sheriff's department because the
Just in
general-
that one location.
Right, yeah, it's at the 45 one. So generally the state guidelines and sort of traffic engineering recommend that this you be set within 10 miles an hour of the 85 percentile speed, which is the speed at which 85% of drivers drive at. So that's sort of the vast majority of people. And the reason that is because you'll have that 15%, which again are going to be driving very fast and are generally not going to be paying attention to that kind of thing. So that's the general recommendation. But again, like I was getting to earlier, that is just about adjusting the speed limit to sort of the reality of what's happening on the road. And that doesn't take into account any changes to roadway geometry. That said, I'm not sure, just from looking at these, really, if there's a lot of roadway geometry changes that can be made. There's really, it looks like East Road and that first location on Route 140 where it's really straight is where you're seeing the really crazy speeds of like 100 miles an hour. And
I
that's
think we saw 100 miles an hour in
Yeah.
maybe all four of them or three of
Yeah, I
the
think
four.
Three of them.
Three of the four. I don't think I have that.
We checked and see there was one crazy driver that drove all around the same day.
Yeah, the first count location on Route 140 was 109 was the highest, but then
There was 113 in there somewhere.
yeah. And then the only other one is East Road where there's 113. So it's those two locations where you see that speed. And if you look on the map, you notice that those are the two locations where the roadway is super straight. And the two places where the max speed was 50 and 60 are right where the road is all like that. So I guess it's kind of a tricky conundrum because really, I think you can consider lowering the speed limit, but I think it really needs to be paired with some kind of enforcement. Is there any kind of enforcement that happens now in town? Or
The sheriff.
it's the sheriff?
Well, we have the sheriff's department and we can certainly request that they are more active at giving out tickets. I don't know what, if you've spoken to him, my sense is that he tends to not to do that. But certainly we pay them a lot of money and are under contract and can guide them that way.
Yeah.
If that is what the board and the community want. You know what happens when we say, okay, everybody, we're gonna start enforcing the speed limits and then people start getting tickets, then we start getting complaints. So it's
What kind
a
of
balance.
those are high speeds? You have time on that?
I don't know if I have the exact time. I would assume they're in the day because I would hope that's not happening at night, but
I would guess it's in the middle of the night personally, but that's just my
it's
guess.
entirely possible. I'm not sure.
Would you have that on there?
It's not on here. I think we could pull it out of the data if we needed to.
I
So could
I
provide that.
I assume it's probably night also.
Okay,
It'd just be nice to know when the highest ones are, so you got some idea of when to
sure.
enforce.
Yeah, so, and we can definitely do that because we do have, it's not part of the standard reports, but we. Basically, the way the traffic counters is like they're tubes that go over the road.
Mhm.
You've probably seen them around and they have air pressure. When cars run over them and it
Right.
basically can tell you exactly the size of the car and when it happened.
It's better between motorcycles and cars.
It does, yeah, between motorcycles, cars, 18-wheelers too as well, so. We just did a study actually over a bridge to check. A targeted study to look at like 18-wheeler usage of an illegal usage on the road, so. We don't typically pull that data out, but when we get sort of a specified request like this, we're happy to go more in depth.
Could you also look up that info for our road? There's a enormous truck getting stuck at the end of 140 and 133. That seems like it shouldn't be driving. So is it possible to pull that data from this study? There's too big of a truck going over it.
Is there, I mean, we can pull data from any of these locations. if
Would've
one
been-
had in mind.
Yeah, it would have been all of them except for East Road.
Well, now it's East Road.
And
That's-
view.
Your dad saw him on East Road last Friday morning.
So all of the locations then.
So we can.
Maybe
pull
we
up
should
to
have our
the-
sheriff go find said person.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
trying
sure.
to, DOT is kind of working on it.
Okay.
Most of them are
Yeah,
crazy
and if
places.
you could help.
No,
us
this
figure out
guy's doing it
When
intentionally.
the speeders
Can we
are
talk at
happening,
once?
that's when we can tell the sheriff that we want more enforcement.
So give you the time of day.
The
6:30
size of the vehicle.
and 8 in the morning, then we know to send them there. I get 10 hours a week out of them, so.
And I guess, I'm thinking of an example of a straight of way with a decrease in speed limit where enforcement seems like it's had an impact, which is the IRA and the IRA church and how it goes from 50 to 45, 40.
40, I think, yeah.
And I
Someone
know
sits there.
that I drive slower and there's no reason to drive slower other than the enforcement that has become known to be there on a regular basis. And I think that to me does feel like the direction that, given the geography or whatever, is that the word you use, geography of our roads, geometry, that's what it was. That seems like what our option is if we're trying to encourage slower driving.
Yeah. It's just hard because there's only so many changes you can make to a roadway like that. It needs to function as like a highway, but also a local road at the same
Right.
time, and that can be really tricky.
So
But
we, right.
Well,
have to
we
park
can't
the
really
sheriff,
change the geometry of
Right,
any of our
yes,
roads,
so we
really.
just have to do enforcement. if we
Right.
Lower the.
And I think when you look at some of the mitigating factors, like why did we lower it to 45, whenever that was, a long, long time ago, is, the use of the road by the people who live there. And particularly like this section on 140 right here, it's really blind. It's a steep hill. You can't see people when you're coming over the hill and you can't see people when you're going over the hill. There are driveways on there and people trying to get in and out, and the people who live there really want it to be slower. And I understand that their houses are very close to the road. So those are, to me, mitigating factors. And when I read this 35-page guide on how to set speed limits, it sounds to me as if the process is step one, which you've completed for us, which is to do the speed study and find out what the existing condition is, and then spend some time actually assessing what the other factors are that would, lead you to lower the speed limit. And, one thing that comes up for me, because I've lived here a long time and I drive to Wallingford regularly, is that nowhere on Route 140 between Tinmouth and Wallingford is the speed 50 miles an hour. Nowhere. And it's wider and there are no houses close to the road. And so we can certainly do it with the appropriate, documentation and reasons. I will say, I think it's a pretty big body of work and we'll need someone to jump in and
Be really motivated.
be really motivated to do that work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly your preliminary work is a great, baseline for us and really helpful printouts compared to some others that we've seen.
Mhm.
And
I actually brought copies of this just in case you didn't have it, so.
thank you. Well, maybe some of our guests would like to see it if they haven't.
No.
And if any of you folks on the phone want this, Gail could shoot Gail an email and she can email it to you in the morning.
Yeah, and that will go over a lot of some of the similar stuff I've gone over, sort of the whole 85 percentile speed and that logic.
Right, and is that the
doing it.
same as what this is that you emailed us, or is it different?
That's different. That's the
Is that
setting speed
this?
limits. Yeah,
Okay.
That's the
That's
guide.
this.
Sorry, maybe you don't always need that, but I thought I would.
No,
give-
I
print
think
out
we-
3 for this.
I think we need both. And then this, which you're also, well, is the report that he's referencing, showing what the results are from each of the 4 segments that had the speed cart, or is that the appropriate name? The
The what?
speed cart, your device that
tooth counter.
your tooth counter.
Sherry wants to speak.
Sherry is raising her hand.
I have a question. Can you get us the data with the timestamp so we could look through it and sort it and see for the different areas, what are the bad times? can we get the raw data and analyze it?
Yeah, I think we're just discussing that a little bit, but I can prepare a report that has all of that data for you, absolutely. So if you want just like the times of day in which people are exceeding the speed limit, or you just want a raw printout of like every single car when it goes over or how fast it's going, that might be a lot of data.
Well, I was thinking of not a printout, but the data so we could manipulate it.
Yeah, I could provide a basic printout. It's kind of tricky because the way the data comes off the tube counter, it comes out in these like really weird files that I then need to pull into a different program, which then allows us to do the data analysis part. So I'm not sure if the actual raw data file would be able to be used, but I can certainly pull as much data as is needed or wanted.
So what you're asking for, Sherry, I think, is if we were to up enforcement, you know, what are our most vulnerable times and when are people speeding the most, or when are the
Correct.
most drivers going by, or both?
No, I think when we see the most speeding in what time of day and, you know, is it going to work? Is it coming home? Is it late at night? Just to kind of make more sense of the data.
Absolutely, yeah. We're happy to provide that. And I think, like you were saying, that's probably the best strategy to be able to use the sheriff department's resources most effectively and try to cut down on speeding is probably the best. Probably the best way to go.
And do you either have experience working through this process with towns, or do you know other towns who have successfully done it?
So I started just a couple of months ago.
Welcome.
And I don't have, like, all my training was in like planning and transportation in general and not specific Vermont statutes. So I'm happy to help you through the process. My boss, Devin, you probably know, is the previous transportation planner and went to Vermont Law School. So he probably knows the process better than I, but we would definitely be happy to help you and
Yeah.
assist with that.
And also just maybe ask him if he, you know, if he, when he was the transportation planner, worked with any towns or guided them. I mean, I read the document and it's pretty straightforward to me. You just have to like sit there and do a study and assess, like, you know, there are 3 blind driveways and there's a sharp curve and there's poor visibility, and you note it all down in the section. And, you know, in order for where we want to ultimately go, if we choose to reduce the speed limit, is an ordinance, speed ordinance, which we have now. The only thing that's in our speed ordinance, which by the way is required for a ticket to actually stick, is the East Road is at 45, I believe. And for example, our stop sign's not in it. So when people blow through the stop sign, he can write a ticket, but if you take it to traffic court, he loses because it's not in our traffic ordinance. So this is an opportunity to like up our game, if nothing else, with the stop sign, all the stop signs in town. This is the most dangerous and the one that people notice and complain about the most. I think because the word is out that if you get a ticket, you don't have to pay. I've definitely heard that over the
Yeah, I
years.
heard that too. When I talked to one of my coworkers,
Yeah.
she'd said that like it's pretty known around the area that
Right.
enforcement is very, very lax
Right.
here. And
Well, and
local people know
it comes
that,
and
I think.
goes, right? Like, we hired the sheriff's department and they were doing a lot of speed stops. And people were getting tickets and we started to get a lot of complaints.
Yeah.
So
You
it
can't
ebbs
have
and
it.
flows.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I was about to
You
say.
can't
I
have
think
You're
that's
gonna,
the
it's gonna be one or the other.
Problem.
Right.
So some people are complaining about cars going too fast and some people are gonna complain about the speed limit getting lowered. So
Right.
it's,
Getting tickets,
yeah.
the personal one. So I think that really frames out the problem statement. And the question is where we want to go with it. And if there's anyone who wants to raise their hand and offer to form a committee and maybe with Devin's support or maybe just reading through this and Sherry have her hand up. Don't
Yeah.
see Sherry's hand up. Oh, there it is. Nice. And I think Gail said she had a couple volunteers as well. To work through,
Alice Jeff Warple,
Yeah.
Tracy Byford.
And Sherry just raised your hand, so you can add that to the
I
minutes.
think we should do that.
Are you shaking your head? No, not me.
No, I considered it. That sounds like a great team. Part of it.
That's a yes or? I didn't catch if you said yes or.
He
no.
said yes.
I'm willing to be a part of it if need be. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
I can translate that no. to yes. That's what he really meant. to say.
Right. I think the other question I would have for you is the 4 locations that you tested were based on 4 complaints, 1 from the sheriff, 3 from citizens. And I'm gonna guess if we form a committee, and I would suggest that that committee be fairly vocal in the community, either written or by having a meeting, and honestly, I'd do both because not everybody reads. We're gonna get more requests, and I'll tell you, like, I live on a dirt road. And the way I read this, the law says the speed limit has to be 35 on a dirt road, regardless of what the road is like, unless you do a speed study. So I imagine we will have more requests.
Tracy had one of those today,
Had one of,
a request to consider Channel Road and if the speed 35 is too fast for it.
Yeah.
So that's-
and there are some people on the straightaway, right? I live across from Tracy, and people drive. It's probably only 35, but it's terrifying. It
Oh,
goes
yeah.
so
Mhm.
fast. And then you go up over a hill and someone, it's one
Yeah,
lane
that
really,
corner's
and
horrible.
yeah, so. We haven't had that many crashes, but it's a little scary to live
It's
there.
extra.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the maximum speed limit, doesn't mean you have to go that speed. limit.
But
Well,
pe-
you and I know that, Paul,
So-
but
people that have a brain understand that you don't necessarily have to go that fast. Some people see it as, oh, I can go this fast, or maybe a little more. Unfortunately,
Some
those are
people
the
get
ones that
mad.
are,
and I can tell you
Right.
why the speed limit is 25 right out here. Because we had complaints and our school is here and children and, it's the busiest part of town at drop off and pick up and random other times. And so the select board many years ago was having this conversation. Well, it shouldn't be 50. What should it be? And so we talked about 35. Hollis was road commissioner. He got in a truck. He said, I'll drive by at 35. What do you think? He drove by and we're all like, oh my God, that's so fast. That's why it's 25,
When you're standing inside the road.
because we were
it's
standing
really
right
fast
out front.
in the car, and even at
And
35.
I think that's true everywhere, right? If you drive by my house at 35, I'm like, oh my gosh, that feels so fast. But if you're like, it's a straight road, I'm driving that. I'm in my car, I'm safe. So that really is the challenge that I think this
The
process is gonna bring up. And certainly we've been kicking it down the road for a while. So-
It just has to stay reasonable. I mean.
Right.
There were some people on the East Road wanted speed limit at 25 miles an hour, and we did the 45. They wanted it 25.
yeah,
I
that's
said,
a little bit
"Not
nuts.
reasonable."
Yeah.
That's why we ended up at 45.
Yep.
Figuring that a lot of the people are gonna go at 50.
Right.
But that's why we were trying to keep the speed limit going.
Right, instead of
Right.
60, it would be 50 maybe.
And if one were setting the speed limit, for example, on the whole section of 140, like from here to Route 133, which has both straight and curvy and hilly and, it has kind of all of the above. If we reference the speed study in one location, do we have to then do a speed study in the other locations too? Or is that kind of hold for the characteristic of the road?
I believe it would hold, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, if you could just let us know, that would.
Yeah,
Right,
so
it's like
I
the whole
mean,
of
sure, you can bring your speed cart here and do every single road.
140.
Woohoo! But to try to balance,
Yeah.
reasonableness.
no,
with,
absolutely, especially because we lost our GIS manager who represented 40% of the work that happened in the transportation program. And
oops.
I just had started, so that program is currently being managed entirely by me.
Oh, wow.
So,
So the list is longer than it used to be.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
understood.
but, I feel like for me, this was really just to get us, because I guess I wasn't entirely clear what the issues were, so just to get a sense of what
Yep.
you guys were interested in doing moving forward, and now that I know that there's interest in updating the ordinance regarding speeding and even stop, or sort of a general look at the ordinance in general, I'd happy to prepare more down the line and
Yep.
regarding that specifically.
Well, and I think, you know, we will form a committee, I imagine.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I imagine, and maybe figure out what the sort of first step is, whether it's like introduce you at meeting one or introduce them to the materials that the board has already reviewed and gathered, provided by you. And then, you know, develop a work plan and help them figure out where to go.
Sure. And I'd be happy to send you some materials as well. I probably won't have any time until after the next week, because there's Better Roads and Transportation Alternative Grants are both due. At that time, we provide a lot of assistance for that. And sometimes towns are not always great about contacting us early, so.
Oh, yeah, have we done that?
No, not us.
No, have we written our grants?
But after that point, I definitely have more
Yeah.
capacity.
And certainly, just having, you know, an email with attachments is fine, for pretty much everyone. I mean, occasionally we print things, but. I think that's fine. Questions from anyone?
Yeah, one question on the 109 on the one down the road here. Can you tell if that was a car or a motorcycle? That I'd like to know, because the 109 miles on at that corner, I don't know how you can make that corner.
Yeah. And so we
That's
can
why I
take
wondered.
another look. It's also possible that there's an error. They generally don't happen, but that is a possibility. So when we look into the data, we can probably determine that. I think it seems like it's possible, but it could be difficult. So
Okay.
we can investigate that further. This actually, I didn't even set these counters. This was
Prior
had
to your,
joined after, yeah, so. This was sort of one of my first projects, getting started. but-
there you go. All right, anything
Mhm.
else from anyone else? Anyone on the phone have a question or want to raise their hand to join the committee? Please do. Rick Smirsky, I'm sure you want to be on our speed limit study committee.
Yeah, that's
That
high
would
on
be
my
a no,
list.
thank you, huh? Okay. Understood.
Thank you so much for coming. This was
Yes.
very helpful.
We appreciate it. Drive safely
More
on our curvy roads after dark.
library.
I would love my
You want-
speed study back, but if, no, I have that one,
Yeah.
Uh,
But-
Yeah,
I have an extra copy actually that you can
Perfect.
have.
here we can pop that on the machine there and anyone who wants a copy can have them. And anyone on the phone who wants this stuff, we can send it electronically. The study in particular is fascinating. And one, if you're checking things, one other thing that just didn't make sense to me is that on the Route 140 section that was just down here, this showed 531 cars, whereas the Route 140 section down here during the same period was 3,349 cars. And then the Route 140 section that away down near Wallingford was 7,509.
And where are the
Which-
cars all going?
Doesn't make that much sense to me. And the one that really is the outlier is that 500. So I would just be curious to have you confirm that number.
That was one thing that got moved around, right? I'm assuming.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Sure.
The date is the same on all of them.
I don't know. I didn't set these
I'm
counters.
pretty
so
sure there
I'm
was
not
only
sure.
one counter and it was,
Got moved
they
around.
got moved around.
So it
So
might have
the-
been, one was on a
Different-
weekend, one was on a weekday. Yeah.
Maybe it's
So
the day-
maybe-
part of the stuff was
Well,
processed, but I'm pretty sure there was only one in town.
if you
that got
look-
moved around.
On here, what I'm referring to, so this would be great for you to confirm because Eric is the current road commissioner, and so he drives all the roads, so he probably knows way better than I do. It says it's the same time period for each location, the exact, you know, like August 9th to August 16th.
The times are slightly
The
different.
times are
but-
slightly different, which means maybe they're dragging, you know, I don't know.
Or the car, whenever the first car
So
went over.
just to
it, yeah.
confirm that also would be helpful.
So
And it, yeah,
when you pull the information off the machine, is it going by the date you're pulling it off, or is it? Is it going by the dates that the machine's actually recording the activity, or is it? Or when you pull the machine, that off the machine, is it utilizing that date?
It should pull the date for when the data was recorded. We do have 4 counters, so. it's
Yeah,
totally
that's
possible
what I
they were all out,
think it was,
I
but-
can-
Maybe they were all.
I
I
can
think there was
check
just
with our
one
records,
machine
but
that
I
had the
don't. I
speed.
didn't
Just
set
curious,
it, so I'm not
See
really
if there's
sure.
a date.
Yeah, it should
Oh.
be the date they were actually set.
The counters might have been
Because they have a little internal clock.
So what Meadow just said, which might resonate, is the one down here had a thing that said, you're going so fast, but the other ones, I think. Were just counters. Is that possible?
The sheriff had the one with you're going so fast.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we don't
Sheriff
own,
first.
I don't think we have one of
Okay.
those. so.
County sheriff
But their
did
data
first.
was inconclusive, meaning made no sense at all. So we like your
So
data.
that's why we asked region. for help.
Yes. And we're happy to do it.
Awesome.
Give a spare scrap of paper. actually.
One of the things I'd like looked into, and I don't know if it's gonna fall underneath this study or not. Is looking at getting caution lights for the tops of all the 25 signs. That 25, that 25, and that 25. I don't know if that can be done.
And
Only money.
are we allowed to do that? Do we have to go through any other channels or can we?
I
just-
don't know. If we're
I'm-
allowed to.
I believe we can. I think part of the challenge is power to run the lights,
Right.
I think you can get them solar.
which is why I say the only problem is money.
Right.
Yeah. So do you have any sense of what that costs?
A speed
know.
feedback sign, you mean?
Speed feedback
Or
sign
no, you're talking about the light.
Yes.
on top.
would just say
Yeah.
caution. Yeah, would it say caution all the time? or
No.
Just when
It would
school?
just
think
be a
that's when
blinking
school-
yellow light.
Yeah, just the blinking caution yellow light on top of all our school speed zone signs. And I mean, just during the day would be fine. I mean, I just see, I live right here where one of the 25 signs are. There's no one hardly that abides by that 25.
Maybe going uphill.
So I think you can ask the speed study committee to look at that and figure it out for you.
Yeah,
Right.
options for.
And
Or
the
signs.
other thing that may be helpful is there are often school safety programs.
Mhm.
So to really loop the school in and let them know
Yeah.
that we have this concern and can we work together if they see a grant opportunity.
Yeah, there's actually the Safe Route to School program, which I'm really trying to grow. But we would need the school to initiate that process with us.
Okay, is there a time frame on that? Is it like a regular grant program or there's a pot of money that sits there, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated because a lot of the funding for Safe Route to School is tied with like Obama infrastructure spending post 2008, and so a lot of it dried up around 2015, and the program didn't get a lot of financial support. But they recently, V-Trans ran a grant program for Safe Routes to School. That was a spot improvement grant that I worked on 2 applications for, but when that came out, only eligible applicants were already in the Safe Routes to School program. So there may be more grants like that in the future, but it's a little up, I'm not really sure because like I said, there's like 6 years of nothing really happening and then they just dropped this grant. And so I'm not sure if they're gonna operate in this year, but there is also the Transportation Alternatives Program, grant program, which has Safe Routes to School projects as eligible. So that's another potential opportunity, but
What was that second one? Safe Rosal.
It's the
Transportation
same one. We wrote a
alternatives.
salt and sand grant.
Right.
Yes.
With
Tap-
Devin.
the tap
Thank you,
grant.
Devin, the TAP grant.
the TAP grant, yeah.
That we are having our kickoff meeting on Monday, so we're just on the very front end of that
Oh, wow.
process, but.
Yeah, the TAP grant is a very weird grant that is kind of a strange grab bag that can fund everything from historic like viewing turnouts to bicycle pedestrian infrastructure to salt and sand sheds and stormwater mitigation projects. So it's very weird, but it funds a lot more stuff than people realize.
Well, and if you see anything come across your desk in this area, please remember us.
Yeah, I do also know that I believe there's going to be a highway safety grant program dropping, which will basically be like a menu of treatments. And you basically say, here's the place, here's the issue, and here's the treatment we want to do. And it's very streamlined. And then they will do that. I think the first thing that comes to mind in this case is the speed feedback signs. If you've seen the ones where they tell you how fast you're going, you know, obviously not everyone's going to obey them, but they have shown to reduce speeds on average. And I do think they have an effect. So given you can't change the roadway geometry, that's one piece of infrastructure you can install that will help. But, you know, if somebody wants to drive 100 miles an hour down the road, they're not going to let a sign stop them. So.
Right, well, maybe the other 7,308 people would slow down, It's not that one.
But they definitely are effective, so,
Yeah.
that's one thing, and I'll be announcing that grant program when it comes out as well, yeah, so.
Perfect. All right, does someone want to make a motion to create a committee?
I'll make a
And-
motion that we form a speed study committee,
Sure.
speed limit committee.
Second it.
Any more discussion? And I guess I would
Shoot, yeah,
include that to say with the people who have volunteered, and I don't want to say anyone else, because I don't want a committee of 50, but you know, other interested parties to get it started.
right.
And one of us at least should go to the first meeting and then encourage them along.
I propose Kevin do it,
Thanks. Appreciate that.
you know,
You have the most skin in the game until I get a speed card on my road. So then I have something to,
This is true.
all right, so you're making your motion and making the recommendation that Kevin chair that committee initially? Is that what you?
Yep,
Okay.
I think if you just go and guide them and then if
Yeah.
you stay on it, so you can
Yep.
report back, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. that's fine.
Okay, so are you clear? Are we all clear on
Yeah.
the motion, which was to create the committee?
Yes.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right.
Yep. Oh, Rick raised his hand. I saw that.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments about speed?
No, thank you for doing it.
All right, thank you for doing it. Thank you for meeting our odd schedule. We appreciate
Good to
it.
meet you all.
Nice
Yes,
to meet you.
thank you.
I will say you have your town office is the most charm of anyone I've seen, so someone who was a history major growing up, it's nice. to
There you
see
go.
The history of the town displayed on the walls instead of this sort of very like, clinical buildings, but
And if you go
I
into the
digress.
library, the very back wall is from 1790, it's
Oh, wow.
horsehair blade.
We'll turn the lights on if you want to go look at it. Kind of cool back
Right
there. Sure,
I'm hold up your whole
It's
meeting.
right there.
it's right there. No, the light is hidden. So I'll unhide it.
we're very proud of our.
Horsehair.
building.
Pretty proud of our horsehair around here. So that is something that I would like to find out how much that would cost. Is to do that.
Yeah, and I think that if we did that, waiting for getting all the prep work done so that we have a really good case, so we're ready if a grant comes up, that's like having recently just scrambled for a grant, it is
Right.
not the best way to do
Right.
it. So that would be
Well, I
a
mean-
goal of the committee, I think, to,
It depends on what
Identify
they
those
cost,
things.
too. I mean, if they're not.
well, what are you thinking?
outrageous,
I'm thinking 5,000 to 7,000 each,
I don't think
times
so.
3, so
We'll
20
leave it
grand,
To the
total guess.
committee to figure out.
exactly.
Those units. That's what it is, 35.
Gail just asked an
Goals and
excellent question.
guidance. We should task the committee with. Developing a plan for reducing the speed limits in town on Route 140. From, we want to give them.
I would say evaluating rather than
evaluating. Okay,
guiding their decision
Okay.
specifically, but. Yeah, I think the goal is to review the speed limits and whatever you call stop sign, you know, and other traffic
yeah.
markings with the ultimate goal of upgrading the ordinance so that it's enforceable by the sheriff's department. And you could include following the 2016 setting speed limits guide protocol.
I think this committee might want to meet with the sheriff's department too.
Yeah, do you think that's the first meeting or
No,
the second?
no.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many meetings you're envisioning them having, but.
I have no idea how long it's gonna take them there. You know, my experience with committees tasked with specific jobs is that if you get someone who's really organized, who volunteers to be the chair and sets a work plan, you can do it quick, and if that doesn't happen, then it can take a while. Figure out what you. All right, are we off speed limits? Did
Thank you.
whoever wanted a copy get it? Should I put this through the copier?
Yeah.
Of the speed itself?
All of
I have,
You can have a copy of mine. I have another copy.
you have two?
Well, I have one on
You have
email. I don't
one?
need a paper copy.
you
All right,
choose.
and you're set,
She has an email copy. We all have email
Okay.
copies.
so we're good.
Yeah, Sherry
Okay,
got
and
that, Sherry got it. emailed
maybe-
too, so.
You did.
Like a couple of them.
Do you have the setting speed limit guide?
Yeah,
This, yeah, so if these two things went to everyone on the committee. All already has to. You got the nice color one. Thank you. Moving right along. Citizens input. Anyone want to input anything?
Other than, thank you for the road crew for getting some falls patched on our end, appreciate it.
did you
Appreciate-
catch that?
I don't know if that's the time,
There's
just a
the
thank you for
thing-
getting some holes patched on our end. I don't know if that's the time for it, but it's.
It's always the
Yeah.
time for
It's always the time for thank
positive
yous.
feedback.
There you go. All right, well, Mr. Patience Smirsky, you're up. Wharton Buildings.
Yep. Good, good. So thanks for letting me come today. We are nearing the finish line on the build for the new town garage. The Morton crew has got the foundation in for the porch out on the 140 Route 140 side, and they'll be working on getting that framed up. They've got to do some trim work on the inside, a couple doors and a window. Today they were putting in the interior jam ballards for the overhead doors. So they'll be, and then, excuse me, the last piece is digging and setting the exterior bollards for the overhead doors. And that is done using our digger truck, our auger truck, which is still presently broken down. So we're hoping that comes back online early next week so we can wrap up everything with the Morton build side by the end of next week. The plumbers have been there and they've got the unit heaters hung and the exhaust fans set. They're going to return tomorrow, get some venting done, some gas lines run, and they anticipate wrapping up with the rest of the plumbing middle to end of next week as well. As with Hans, he's in the home stretch of his work with the electrical, and he anticipates a couple of days next week, and then he'll be wrapped up. So if all goes to plan, by the end of the week, next week, we should have completed everything with the only caveat being those jam protectors. If the equipment gets back online and we can dig those and get those done, we'll have pretty much wrapped it all up.
And when are you anticipating a CO and turning the building over to us so our team can move in?
I would say shortly thereafter, the beginning of the following week, if we can get everything through with inspections and approvals and CO and that.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that's what I said before. I said it's gonna be Christmas.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
Christmas.
But we haven't had substantial snow, so I've been lucky in that respect.
So are you gonna put a big red bow on the building when it's all done?
The safety bow, sure. We'll put some caution tape around it.
Questions, concerns?
No,
So we did just, I think you guys don't know, we did do a blower door test and the building is quite tight. I inquired of Rick about combustion air for the gas heaters, and they are designed to pull air in on the outside of the pipe and exhaust on the inside, so hopefully those will be fine. I am wondering how you're controlling that exhaust fan and what you mentioned in your conversation with fire protection that there's no requirement for CO. What is making that exhaust fan come on? Is it a switch or is it a gas sensor or
So.
what's required by code for that?
So at present, I'm exploring that because the initial thought was it would be a sensor, a CO2 sensor that would trigger the activation of the fan and also have a manual override. So if Eric wants to turn it on his own accord, he can do that. The only thing is we want to find out is the sensitivity of it, because if it's constantly triggering, it may be counterproductive. It may sense too much buildup and run almost continuously. So I'm trying to get some guidance on that to make
And
sure that
just to be clear, you said CO2, I think, but we're talking about carbon monoxide. I think.
Yes, NO2,
Think,
excuse
right?
me.
Are we
Yes,
talking about CO or NO or both?
I guess it would be carbon monoxide, so it'd be, I guess that's.
Well,
the
as
NO.
you're talking to fire safety, certainly let them know that we have diesel equipment in there, which
Okay,
I
yeah.
think gives off both CO and NO.
Okay,
And if you get this in writing, I would feel better from them, just so we're all super clear on what's required. And
Yep.
while I think safety is the most important thing, and then energy is the less, it's very important, but we want
Yeah, we don't
everyone
want
to be
anybody to-
healthy first.
Yeah.
correct.
And there was an incident of carbon monoxide poisoning in our garage. So
Correct.
a really pertinent thing for us to be paying attention to, because the building there is a ventilation system. And so we really need to understand how to use it effectively to keep everyone safe. And I think
Yes.
the most important time, Eric, is going to be like, so you're going to turn the truck, like open the door and then turn the truck on. And then you're going to drive out and the door is going to close. And when you come back in, that's when I'm worried. You're going to come back in, you're going to turn the truck off, you're going to close the door, and you're going to learn, right? And that's why we definitely should buy an independent carbon monoxide sensor that will just alarm. So you guys will start to learn how to manage the building. And, if you guys drive by and he's got the one garage door cracked open and you're like, why is the garage door open? That might be why. Because I'm not sure, Rick, when we turn on that exhaust fan, where is the makeup air coming from?
Right. So
Like-
the thought would be, it would be from, the areas that the building is not 100% sealed. So there would be some draft and some makeup air in the space.
Right. Isn't the CFM of that fan like pretty big though? Like 1500 CFM ish?
Yeah, it's
Fun.
size. Yeah.
So I think we'll want to, be very cognizant of these things as we finish up and move our team in and our trucks that spew out bad things.
I think a couple CO detectors in that building and there in a couple places would be a good idea anyway.
And
Yeah.
are you saying that the vent automatically turns on when there's a certain amount?
Well, that's what Rick
Detected?
said he's investigating.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at the possibility of it being automated in that respect.
Because even if it comes on more than it needs to, that seems having it flip on automatically feels safer than, if somebody doesn't notice it and it doesn't, and they have to physically turn on the vent, even if the alarm can be going off, but it won't do anything unless somebody is
Right.
capable of turning on the vent
Right.
or opening the door.
Like Kathy
believe-
said, I was gonna say, like Kathy said, the human life is more valuable than the heat
Yeah, I'd
loss.
rather
Right.
be running a fan.
And, the reason I was asking you about that gas space heater is that to me, that is the biggest hole in the building. So when you turn that exhaust fan on, I will be worried that we will be, turning the exhaust backwards and sucking air in through the heater, because that's the hole, because there is no
Right.
other hole. So,
Yeah, that's a valid point.
and, that is just part and parcel of our choosing that spray foam option and having a nice tight building shop.
Right.
Questions, concerns? Eric shaking his head, no, others? All right,
Air exchanger of some kind possible.
yeah, what's the ad for, Hollis is asking about, he
Air
called it an air
purifier.
exchanger, I called it a heat recovery ventilator,
Conditioned air exchanger is like $20,000.
which is why we have a fan that blows out.
So a couple CO detectors.
So you should be able to pull a window on the other side of the building too. If you want to get some cross.
Right. So if you drive by and there's a window cracked in the winter, perhaps that is what. Yeah, and I think, really and truly to be very cognizant and very careful as you're learning the building this winter. And absolutely, I think, I don't see a problem having, just plug in CO detectors in the building. And, I have a feeling those are like $20 at Home Depot kind of thing.
Yeah,
And we want the ones with the loudest horns they make.
yeah, I mean, just to have it is added security.
Yeah.
Cause you can't smell it, and by the time you do smell it, you're probably gonna be.
So, with your permission, I think we can direct Eric to secure some.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it to you to
Yes.
figure out where to put them and what the right number is, and,
Okay.
yeah. I think someone who works at a place who could deliver them.
I do.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. All right, anything else for Rick?
No.
Thank you. We're looking forward to a really big Christmas present, about
right.
4,800 square feet, done, bow on the door. Sounds good.
There we go, with a big red ribbon. Very good.
Good ribbon. All right,
All
thank
right.
you, Rick.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yep.
Bye.
Related but different fire alarm system. You want to speak to that?
I sent you, well.
In your packet. It is in our
oh, it's
packet.
in the packet.
Yep.
Yeah. here.
Well, I was thinking that there was no fire alarm wires and they were told to wall up, and I went, wait a minute. We didn't get one. So I guess I called Green Mountain or Countryside and just get some rough idea, and he said he went off of Mount Holly's garage is what you basically got, but I have actually talked to him. He said it should be pretty close. Price wise. So just a heads up that maybe, we ought to think about putting an alarm system in that building, fire alarm.
It is modern.
That is, yeah, it's got a call out system, and for a little bit more, there's some motion sensors in there. So if it senses motion in the building too, when there's not supposed to be, it'll call. And being the way things are,
Mhm.
people are not decent anymore, some of them. So
So this would trigger 911.
that would trigger, yeah, it'd call him, he'd call
911.
whoever.
Yep.
Gets told to call, yeah, it'd probably call 911 too if it was a fire alarm. I'm assuming if it senses motion, it's not gonna call 911,
Right.
it's gonna call one of us.
Right,
And, but he said that was more, he said, you definitely get it for less than 10 grand if you got the, if you got the motion sensors and everything.
Does
So-
this come with is there an annual fee?
Yeah, I got it written down. It was like 200. It was like $400 a year between the two things. I think it was $220 a year to monitor it. And then they have to do a yearly inspection, and I think that was,
You told me
Around.
250
was that, yeah.
ish, so like 500-ish a year.
Yeah.
And I was a little confused about the 1 phone line, 2 phone line conversation. That seems ludicrous for us to need 2 phone lines, but maybe that's what code is.
I have. no
And somewhere
idea.
in here he
I
says,
did read that.
I'm going to try to get away with a single line to save the town some money. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I will point out it's more than, what's our limit 10 or 5 for procurement? 10, come on, there you go.
But someone said there may be some grant available shortly.
That someone was me,
That was you.
Yes,
because I inquired from our insurance company. Because Eric was initially told that it was our insurance company required it. And they don't, their response is they highly recommend it. If it's required by our permit, then they would require it. I don't know if our permit requires us to have.
I
a
think it's
fire alarm.
buildings over 5,000 square feet.
That's sprinkler, but I don't know.
I think
If
a lot of rules
the
kick in
fire-
at that line right there, yep.
But they did say as of January 1st, their grant program kicks in again, and if it wasn't required, we could use that grant program to fund some of it, probably 50%.
And
would be-
so we wait until they tell us, or we can start working on that now? Is that clear, or you don't know?
It's 3 weeks away. Can we wait that long?
I don't think we'll use that.
Nope.
I am it is optional. I am in favor of this because if you think about it, most of the investments that this town has made are gonna live in that garage, our $190,000 trucks and our
Mhm.
$159,000 loader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also, if we were to have a fire and lose that equipment, operationally, we would be up the creek. So we want to protect that equipment as best we can. And I think it's a good idea. I mean, yes, it's an extra cost. I don't know if, I had asked you if you could pull where we are on spending at this point. Oh, it's one of the reports that Gail has over here.
Should say Public Works Facilities.
Yep.
There's no detail to it. But it's total to that.
So spent to date, 735, oh, plus balance due, 817,100. 817,000. So if we were to. I'm just trying to, total from capital betting for total from there. So the unencumbered balance is what is in,
The capital building fund right now that's available for highway,
got it,
120,000.
right.
That's at highways disposal. Views.
And there's
And we-
nothing
we
else
need-
coming
we need
out of
some
that.
kind- We need some kind of a balance for salt and sand shed.
We need at least $100,000 for the salt and sand shed. That's our match. And Eric and I are going to go to a meeting on the phone to kick that process off, and
So it's $20,000 is what it is.
Well, I think we need to figure out what else we need to do down there. There's still site work to be done and
do you have an idea, Eric?
You're gonna need some gravel for the driveway. And some finish work around the bank by your house. And while everywhere around there, I'd like to see seeded and mulched down so we can mow it. But we're obviously not gonna get there before winter, because it's winter now, so.
As far as the pitch of that driveway, is that gotta be changed still, or is that the way that's gotta be for that watershed? Storm watershed, is that driveway waves to where it needs to be now or no?
Yes and no. The plans, the stormwater plan calls for pitching a whole driveway toward the building,
Correct,
so the water drains into the drain,
right.
and that's what we have to do, so, that's not
Which
done.
drain are you, so it pitches towards the stormwater
Yeah,
pond? Is that what you mean by the
The
drain?
north end of the building,
the north end of the building.
that all that water is supposed to go into the drain, the footing drain, and then go into the pond. So I have to tip that end up a little bit, which it makes no sense, but we'll do it for now. Is my guess. So we need a little bit more, that's part of the gravel work in there, and then around the septic tank, that has to get picked up a little bit too. To get that to shed the way they want it. But, that's just.
I mean, so all of it theoretically has to be pitched into that watershed pond.
Well,
that you
if
did.
you look at the drawing, it's south side. That whole end is, yes, the north end.
Yeah.
And then some of it sheds off towards your brother's house.
Yeah.
There's a line in there somewhere. The other side of the building, there's a imaginary line that goes from the east new corner of the new building to the center of the old building. There's an imaginary line there, and everything towards your house goes into the pond.
Yep.
Everything on the other side of that line goes away. So why they did it that way, I have no
So-
idea, but
Theoretically, there's not gonna be any more watershed than what existed going toward my brother's. There's not gonna be any
Right.
more watershed than
It'll
what
be
was
less.
already
it'll be less.
going that way anyway, less than okay.
I just had a question on the water that you got going down the side of the building now. Was that supposed to now run into the pond? In the retaining pond?
What water?
The water that was on the west side that the pipe,
Nope, that's nothing, they don't care about that.
that water don't go straight back.
Water's going straight by, yeah. Yep, that goes, that's done, basically, that's shape it, seed it, mulch it. That's it, that's done, that's what they don't wanna, there's not pond enough there to deal with that much water.
Is
So-
that sinking in down there or still going down through farther?
Oh, no, it's going all the way down by the burn pile still. Yeah, well, it depends on the day, that changes, I never paid that much attention to it before, but that water flow changes on a daily basis. You can see now what it's doing, and some days it slows right down, and then
Mm.
other days, it's just like today, it was cranking. So where it's picking that water up from, I don't know.
One for the dirt and look drop around.
Is there anything that can be done? I know we're gonna change it once we put in the salt and sand shed. There's a lot of water that runs right in front of the paper recycling shed. When I get out in my sneakers on Saturday morning and there's that much water, it's really hard for me to get in there. And that water just keeps going and, where does it go? Is there any way that can be diverted some other place, or is that the only place that it can go?
I think that's the only place it can go for now.
But it seems like it's coming around the edge of the sand pit
Yeah, it is.
and going down through and then going into the cardboard recycling thing and then just,
And it goes
wherever.
around the corner of the building and drops into another. I dug a little settling pond in there to
yeah.
try to help out. the neighbors. I mean, you could build that up next to the old building and then tip it off so more of
around
it
the
goes
back.
the other side of the sand pile, which is doable, but it's not gonna change it very much.
My guess is if the sand pile can move eventually, you could change some of that.
Sure.
Cause the stuff coming off, the water coming off the pile is coming down, making that curve.
Yeah.
Coming down by the pile and then going straight into the cardboard recycling thing.
Yeah, it goes in front,
Right.
but I'm assuming that's why they poured the concrete in there. Cause that's where the water was going.
The concrete down the outside. Yeah, I put that in there to keep it, everything just keep washing.
Right. Yeah.
So put it in there just so it would hold. It would drain, but it would hold the material.
And would it help to just add a couple inches of stone to raise people up above the mud for a year?
No, it's not really mud, it's water. I mean,
It's water.
no matter what you do, it's just gonna.
If you raise it up, I think you're gonna end up with the water in it,
In the ground.
Yeah.
in it instead of,
Yeah. hopefully they fix it when we do the student salt shed, we address everything down there. To straighten that stuff out,
Well,
cause
yeah,
that's all gotta go into, I'm sure that's gonna have to get treated once we do the same salt shed.
I think if we don't touch things, we don't treat them in that project, which is like good news, bad news. The good news is it'll be a lesser scope and maybe we can build something that makes sense for us. I mean, I'm not optimistic, honestly,
Yeah.
that a budget of 400,000 is gonna get us what we need.
I mean, we do have a catch basin, we could put a catch basin there near the. Somewhere there and just drain it.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I mean,
Well,
we do-
how about if
have-
we ask you to look at it and let us know what you find out?
Once we get our sand pile straightened out, we can do. Anything.
You have more options. Yeah.
Is that something that we're looking at too, at some point, is once this. Is when we are able to put the salt shed out here. Is that sand pile gonna also move, or?
The sand pile will go in the.
In the-
salt
okay, that's what I
building, and
thought,
I'm
yeah.
assuming what we'll do is we'll take the gravel pile and put the gravel pile where the sand pile is now. And then maybe we could knock our. Forget impervious surface down a little bit. Cause maybe we don't need that area over there anymore, maybe we could plant some grass.
Right.
I don't wanna. Forget I said that, but like.
Well, it's a goal.
'cause I don't want
can't
to have
promise.
too much driveway, cause it's nice to have room, to turn trucks around and stuff in there, so.
Right. So. Back to the money piece, we're required to show up with. 100 or 125, I'll look that up. As a match, I think it's 100, but I might have said we could come with 125, I'll need to look. And it occurs to me that. There's no way we're gonna get the building we planned, whatever it is now, 3-4 years ago. And so, do we want to think about the ARPA funds to supplement? It's just a question I'll throw out there. We have not made very many decisions about ARPA. But that is kind of the only other source that we might have to
Right.
bolster that. Gail, I don't know, did you send that email from the listserv to everyone, the one you shared with me? So I don't know, did I say to you, or did you just decide on your own? Somehow we had a conversation about, wonder how much these things cost. So she put it out there, and there's a town, Versher, I believe, that just went out to bid for a 5,000 square foot town garage, and their total budget is 1.8 million. So as kind of bad as I feel about 817,000 plus a fire alarm system and other miscellaneous, it's the way it is.
Is that more than building?
So what this money includes is the. Capital fund reimbursing the town's highway fund.
The 64,602,
60,000.
yeah,
No, this
sorry,
is spent long ago.
total from highway budget. Oh, that's what we
That's
paid
just-
through the years.
And then we just kept it in. the
Oh,
budget.
okay, okay, I'm with you now.
So this other money includes the, whatever it was, 60,000 from last year that got transferred, or 50,000, 53 something. And so far this year, we've got 60,000. That's still in the highway budget. We haven't transferred it. So if we can find money in our current budget. Not to have to be reimbursed by the capital fund, that would give you a little bit of slush. For instance, we were underspent paving by 25,000.
Right, and I read in the
Right.
minutes that we voted to spend that on paving next year.
That's what you said you wanted to do, was make it carry forward to paving, so.
We can change our minds if we need to.
Yes, you can.
So talk me through this, because I must say that was not clear to me. So what we have spent to date. That number that you have, 735,216. Plus balance due Morton Buildings, that is not. That, so one question is, how much have we spent? And what I also want to know, which I think is the next section, so you can talk me through it, is of the 850,000. Is what you're showing us that what is left is 120,106?
Yes, that's what's left. But
Yep.
what I'm telling you is. instead of making it complicated by saying, well, this year for FY 23, we owe the highway fund 60,000. I just included it in the total that had been spent. What I'm trying to tell you now is you don't have, if we can find that some of it, at least some of it in your current highway budget,
We
you don't
wouldn't
have to
have to.
transfer that other 60.
So you added the 60 into the. Into
I added,
that 730, got ya.
Because it has been
Okay.
spent. Some of that is. And it's misleading because it says it's from the capital building fund, but some of that is still from the highway.
The 60,
The 60.
Yeah.
Right, down here,
we got ya.
it's down here, the reimbursement due as of right now. Is 60,900.
And that's all the gravel and the labor. Is that
That's
correct?
gravel and labor and septic and. Equipment rent. Supplies.
All the things that we paid
subcontractor, the
for, yep.
Electrical we had to pay for, piping, the septic tank, the gravel for the septic tank. Piping, all kinds of stuff. The wages so far is $12,198.
And that's included in the 60,900.
Yes.
Thank you. So,
And so I don't know how much more engineering is gonna be required for. Any of this stuff, if they have to sign off on it again,
They
or.
do have to come back out and sign off.
oh, knowing them, we'll definitely get another bill
Well,
of
that
some
would be
variety.
probably another $500, because that's what they charge.
I was gonna say 5,000, so somewhere in there.
God,
Well, I think that agreement was by the hour, it wasn't a set dollar
Uh-huh.
amount that they were gonna get.
Yeah. So your projection then is that the balance in the capital fund will be
The 120.
the 120, 106, less whatever we're gonna owe. Otter Creek Engineering, less 2C carbon monoxide sensors, and perhaps a fire alarm system, which we're gonna decide next year when we see the grant opportunity. So technically, we will have close to 120,000 left, of which 100,000 does need to be allocated to salt and sand. To match the $300,000 grant that we got. And our original budget for salt and sand was 200,000. That we prepared in 2019. And then when we refloated the exact same fabric building, like 2 years later, it had doubled. And now we're using a federal grant, and so just the project management is $40,000, non-negotiable. So, what I would, we need to appoint a committee to go to this, but maybe we should talk about it when we get there. I want us to think about what you want that committee, which I am volunteering to be on, I believe, as is Eric, to say when we're asked, well, what's your budget? Right, and they know our budget is whatever we committed to in the grant, and then the question is, what can we get for that, and should we supplement it with ARPA money? And I don't know the answer to that, I'm just letting you guys know that did occur to me as something we should think about.
No, I think it is something we should look at.
Because my hope, just like my hope with the town garage was, I didn't want to build a 2-bay garage and try to build 2 bays later. I just want to do it right and get it done. So we're like, good. And I kind of feel the same way about the salt and sand, but I'm happy to hear other people's. Were you waving, Sherry, or were you stretching your yarn? You're good. Okay.
No, I mean, I think. We don't have to, I mean, we should look at it. Utilizing it. God
Right.
forbid we need to utilize it.
Well, and I think my sense would be that if folks are comfortable with it, that we could whoever that committee is, could at the meeting on Monday with the Regional Planning Commission to procure our design team. That we could talk about supplementing with ARPA and give a range. I don't think we need to commit, and we will probably want to structure our building so that we have options. You know, we can say, sure, this is what we really want, but let's please also bid something else. And, you know, the trick becomes your stormwater design is completely dependent on how big your building is. Bigger the building, the more complicated and the more expensive to design the stormwater system is. And if you think we have a big pond now, we're gonna have a really big pond from that one, would be my guess. Down to the south, I think,
Mm,
below it. So, thank you for doing this, Gail. This is super helpful. If anyone, there are more copies here, if anyone would like them.
So how soon do you think we're gonna have some idea of the total expense? Probably not in time to put an article on the warning at town meeting to raise an extra $50,000 or something.
That would be one option that we could do. I
But
think
we
what
need to know it by the middle of
January, I think that's
I think that's too. soon.
highly unlikely, but. My sense is that we go to ARPA first.
We did get the rest of the money, by the way.
Oh, good.
They sent it in two lumps, so.
So the total was 177 and we've spent couple thousand.
Less than 5.
Yeah, and then one way or the other determine, however, the right of way comes out, that might be 15-ish. Or it might not be, to be determined.
Well, it's gonna be more than that, because we have $1,000 in legal fees already.
All right, 16 plus other fees, or $1,000 of legal fees.
Right.
And that's
It
it.
could be that
So,
it doesn't-
yeah, hard to say.
You're jumping ahead, but yes, we got the petition, so you do have to have them.
Yes. Okay.
And we got- This is. We're not. We got some time. Cause this is gonna happen like, this maybe happens next summer, right?
Building this building,
Yeah.
that's what I've been led to believe,
Yeah.
that our
So we got-
design and bidding process will take a year.
So we may be able to kick that. Extra $50,000 thing to.
next year.
Yep.
Right,
So we're a
Um,
little smarter. So
And I think, and when you were saying 50,000, were you referring,
Just taking a number out of the air.
but you weren't specifically referring to the carryover from FY 22.
No.
So that's, you also said that, which is also a good idea to consider.
Right.
So we have a couple options. And I think that for the fire alarm, I think what we decided, and we don't actually need to vote, is to wait, ask Gail to monitor whatever form of communication we get from the league, and when there is a grant for a fire alarm, that will apply.
Mhm.
And if you could let your friend know that your friend, the countryside guy who did it for Mount Holly, that is our plan. And we will likely, because it will be a grant, have to go out to bid, that it's great for us to have an idea of what it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to get 3 quotes or something.
There's
You know, if it's
probably
not-
there's probably a thing. And yeah, get yourself some smoke alarms while you're at it, right? Because I think that's what we're gonna have.
Right.
Until such time as we can make that come through.
He said that if you got the right CO detectors, he can plug right into. With
Oh.
his done, so
But
that's
you
why.
could, yeah,
Is
and I
there
think you
anything
want
we-
smoke and CO. I think that you can get
Yes.
them combined.
Well, CO's low. Smoke is high.
So get two.
for each.
Cause CO, even though you can't smell it, CO is a heavier. So it's gonna,
Right, it drops in.
Yeah.
always.
Do we need the electrician to do anything to set up the wiring? So that we can get it plugged in a month? Or will that all just be after fit?
That's all after.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know. I have a carbon monoxide sensor in my home. You plug it into the wall and,
No, I meant the fire alarm system.
oh,
No,
the
that's
fire
all-
alarm system will be like wired in by a different electrician.
Yeah.
And we have a gigantic service, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah. All right. Anything else on the building? All right, moving on. Eric, you're up.
Okay, so. We've been spot grading, fill potholes, tree cleanup, we had a lot of wind. Um. And some ice and all that happy stuff, I was looking at. I don't think I have to, but I will run it by you guys, about a floor jack for that garage. Something that's a little safer than, we have a 20-ton bottle jack that you have to crawl under the trailer, under the trucks. To jack them up with. And I've seen my life flash before my eyes a couple times. So,
I've had a truck fall on me because of the bottle jack, so.
I had a car on me too, so, one time. It was a Lincoln. So, I'd like to get a floor jack that, and then if we need it for the fire department. Or whatever, it's there, you can go down there and change a tire or whatever, so. I'll look into it, but it was like, there was 2 of them side by side, one was 800, one was 1,800. I couldn't tell the difference,
Right.
so I think we'll get the $800 one, if everybody's okay with that. I'll put it in the tool budget. for this year.
As far as safety is concerned, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
You might wanna just check out, if it's cheap, you don't want it falling on your head, so
Well, it's
you
from-
might wanna figure out
Yeah,
what it is that's
the difference.
$1,000 difference if it's a safety feature, then
There might be some. Like more safety latch,
I got the book, you and I can look at it.
okay, that's fine.
I got the book from there.
Yeah.
so Figure out which one I wanna get. I'll just get it.
There's a lot of weight coming down on you.
Yeah, you're not gonna have to worry about it.
You're not gonna walk away from that.
Jack stands.
No, we got the ones for the body, the truck bodies. But we don't have any,
Floor.
floor jack things that support that kind of weight. Anyways. Probably wouldn't hurt to have a couple of those either.
Yeah, I mean, under the axle, wherever end you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should look into that too.
The other thing is when VTEL was out, I had them run a wire to the south side of the building up high. So we can, put an exterior antenna for Wi-Fi. Do you guys want to buy it or do you want me to? It's gonna put Wi-Fi, the metal buildings suck up your Wi-Fi. It doesn't go outside. So your phones, your cell phones, everybody's cell phones will actually work in the yard. That has the code, so they're like $100. So,
got building repair in the budget.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's
bringing
fine.
the buildings makes sense.
then you dump guys will have, if they've got a phone.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Charlie and Gunner.
Well, I thought about it afterwards, I was like, well, dump guys will work.
Well, the people dropping off their trash will have phones.
You know, I
Gunner
don't see
or
either
Charlie
one of them with
needed one.
smartphone.
Oh, that's
But I
fine.
knew at least that would, other phones work in the yard there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really all I got for you at this point. It's just business as usual and we're swinging.
Winter salt snafu.
So Barrett sent us the letter that we went out to bid for treated salt and it was 87.50.
$85.50.
85.50.
That's what we signed on.
Well, then he sent us the letter, it said 97 something. And Gail says, is that right? I'm like, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But, so basically, the lady that usually does that was out on maternity leave, is the story I got. So they sent us the quote for regular salt and not treated. So really, they quoted us treated salt at untreated salt price. So I don't know where we're at from there.
Pretty much what I got from Tinmouth there was. If you want the treated stuff, the clear lane, you're gonna pay $97 a ton. If you wanna pay $85 a ton, you're gonna get just plain old rock salt.
And what was the other quote we got?
The other quote was 105 for the de-icer and 90 something for plain salt.
So we would have chosen Barrett either way.
Yeah.
So much for having an airtight procurement procedure, huh?
Well, and Tim from Barrett said we needed to change our definitions, and it says mined rock salt or de-icer / treated salt product.
Does he have a copy of that?
Yeah.
He can't
and
read?
he told me that this wasn't right. Well, he doesn't handle the bids. Cargill does.
Right.
And so he just delivers it, but he likes to check up on his Vermont customers, and we hadn't sent him the contract for the $97, so, and they delivered some. So I guess we're looking for the board to authorize getting the other stuff for $97. It comes about $4,000. If somebody did a boo-boo, and when I said that to him, he didn't have any reply.
Because it was his,
It wasn't his, nothing
wasn't
that he did. It was the women that work in the office at Cargill.
she mistakenly priced it,
One of them did, yeah.
right, which
And he didn't want to throw the money.
theoretically falls on him.
I don't know, but he made it pretty clear, if you want to get the clear lane, the de-icer stuff, it's gonna cost you $97 a ton.
Thoughts?
I mean,
He won't,
we would have picked them anyway, and it's human error. I mean, I don't feel like I want to hold them. Or, yeah, I don't feel like haggling over it, because it just feels like something that I could do, like, and it's frustrating, but
I will say that I really like this chart that you did, Gail, by the way, number of tons. That was very helpful. So in FY22, we used 368 tons, and you're calling it salt, but I'm assuming that at least for last year, it was the de-icer product.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we take that 368 times, what was it, 90? 368 times 97 is 35,000, and we're budgeting 45,000. So.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that the price is higher, but I don't really feel like we have an option. I mean, oh, we could get our attorney to chase him, and by the time that was done, we burned up on
Right.
that. So, yeah, I would make a motion that we,
still be fun though.
your sense of fun and mine are not aligned. I would make a motion that we secure the de-icer product at the higher price. And express our dismay at the process. Or not, don't have to put that in.
Well, I'm probably gonna send something to Cargill about it.
I think you
See what you're
should
gonna say.
mention it. I mean, not that it's gonna matter, but should be brought up.
Right. Well, and if they want us to change our language, I mean, it's pretty clear to me what we asked for, but maybe we just don't know the lingo. So let's get the
Or
lingo.
maybe if we're not gonna use rock salt, we don't ask for a price for
Right.
rock salt. Right?
Right.
Haven't you said we don't ever use it anymore?
Yeah, well, the way we're set up, you're stuck. You could end up with, you got one pile.
Right.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Salt snafu. Stormwater reports. I looked at the minutes and it says you have to do something with Stephanie, and then you and I are gonna do something to print them out.
Yeah, I sent the thing to you, you have to convert it to an Excel file, and I don't know how to do that. So that's the thing I sent to you.
I mean, when my phone just dunged there a minute ago?
No, it was the other night.
I have not gotten anything from you on that.
Really.
Yep, but I will say both my phone and my internet have been unreliable, shall we say. So if you could send it again, that'd be great.
I'll do it right now.
All right. We are now on TAP grant update, which is salt and sand. Appoint consultant selection committee. So we have had about 10 emails to sign contracts with the state of Vermont and the Regional Planning Commission. So we've secured the grant. We've secured the Regional Planning Commission as our project manager, and this is the kickoff meeting to write an RFP for a design team. And we need to have a consultant selection committee, which I think Eric and I have both volunteered to be on, and if there are others who would like to do that, there is a meeting on Monday by Zoom at a time that I can tell you if I look it up. So if anyone has interest, let me know. Gail does. Are you on that appointment? Did you get it?
It's
I can
like 10
forward.
o'clock or something on Monday.
Yep, I can forward that to you if you want.
Is that Zoom or Teams?
It's whatever they sent us.
Okay.
And it is at 10 o'clock. And people are welcome to go in person. I have a meeting at 11 o'clock, so I'm going to go from my computer at home. You too? You'll stay here in town?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I would make a motion, well, one of you guys should, because I shouldn't appoint myself, but
Right, I will make a motion that we appoint Kathy, Eric, and Gail to be our consultant selection committee. And attend all the
I think,
meetings.
yeah, I guess we have a consultant selection committee, and then maybe we have an implementation team, and maybe it's the same and maybe it's different. This is just what we were asked to do.
Okay,
So we'll do
we'll
it.
start with this.
Right, you want to second that?
Yeah, second it.
Going to make decisions, or is it gonna report back to the select board when we get to spending major money, or what's the plan for it? And we'll find that out Monday.
I think, yeah, I'm.
I think within
Appoint
reason.
Consultant selection committee. So are you just the committee that
Well, does the full board, if we
selects the consultant?
go out to bid and we get 3 design teams that come in, does this board want to review them and choose? Or does this board want to task that to the 3 on the consultant selection
Right.
committee? And we can certainly ask questions, and I'd be shocked if we needed to give an answer in the next month, because there'll be this whole flurry of going out to bid and then waiting for responses. And we can get clarity from them on how that is usually handled. My guess would be that the board would do it with
Yeah.
input from the rest of the committee, but I've never done this before.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would ask questions at that meeting to find out.
Yes, I must say that I'm already happy to have a project manager based on the paperwork that has gone by just to get us to this point. A lot. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Review draft highway budget. Including the very giant. Thank you, Gail. Equipment fund.
Sorry, I couldn't get it for free.
It's actually nice having it.
It's
like that.
actually nice, yeah. And just by the way, the back page, it's just my inflation calculator, which we can look at if you want, but you
Yeah.
don't need to look at. So,
Thanks, Ray.
thanks, Ray. Is there anything else you were
can
interested
get-
in? We could put it earlier.
No, I was really, well, I see him later, you know,
Are you willing to serve on the emergent? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
but no, my interest. is
Uh,
really in-
Oh, and this is, yeah, we have that signed. So
Thank you all.
great.
If we sign you up for any other committees, we'll let you know.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I'll just run you through this. The only reason to, well, I mean, there are many reasons to show this to you, and certainly feedback, and particularly from you, Eric, because like the other day, you said to me, we need to put the new fabric cover for salt, like you're so forward thinking. So in 2043, when I will definitely be dead, we will be buying a new fabric cover. And that's in there. So if you look at this and there are things that you want us to consider or that we missed, certainly let me know. I will say that we have budgeted, and this was built in 2016, to replace the grader next year with a used grader.
Yeah.
And that number in there is the way the number that's shown in that column, 79,196, is if you go over to the right, budget cost basis created in 2016. So I was told that a used grader was gonna be 65,000 in 2016, and I've been inflating it every year.
Yeah.
That's how I got there.
Your number's good. 'cause
Okay.
I talked to I knew this was coming up, so I talked to Jeff Lane. He came down, went over the loader with me. And I was- I knew it was coming up, so I asked him about it, and he said, you're probably looking at 75, so. You're.
Great.
You're right in there.
Wait, I don't mean to interrupt. Go back under highway. Eric, I think you need to announce to the select board. that
What
we
your
have a
other
loader.
Christmas present was.
Yeah, the loader showed up, in case anybody doesn't
Oh,
know.
wow.
Yeah, that did show up. So,
Can't
That's
you
where the small things are.
can't even hear it run.
What's that?
Can't even
Oh,
hear it
it's
run.
quiet.
It's ridiculous.
Well, that is nice for our neighbors.
It is,
Glad.
but it's a little ridiculous how
Yeah.
quiet that thing
Yeah,
is.
it's
Like,
amazing.
hope it's got a super loud backup alarm on
It does. It's
Yeah.
irritating, actually. The backup alarm is irritating.
Okay,
But
better
There
than
you go.
running somebody over.
yeah, it is. I could not, but when he started on the truck, I was like,
Is it
that's
running?
running. So, yeah.
Yeah, when it showed up down there the other day,
Is that got the Pearson one or the gravelly?
It's the really annoying piercing one. Yeah.
You want to switch it to the gravelly one, it ain't anywhere near. You hear it, but it's. You ain't gonna
Yep.
wake up.
Um,
He's down there.
The other question just to think about, because I have no idea if the numbers are right, is I think you'll trade in the old grader. When we
Yeah.
buy a new one. So if 75 is the right number for used one, are we gonna get 5 for old one or 10? You know, like, what are we? The number I want is what we net at. And we were quite a bit over with the loader. Oops.
Yeah.
So I would love for us to be closer under with the
He
grader.
basically said if it's running and in good shape, it's worth money. If there's something wrong with it, it's a boat anchor. So.
And which one are we?
It's running right now.
Okay, quick,
So
right?
If something bad happens, it's a boat anchor.
Quick.
Just-
Yeah. And I will point out that, our fund is down to 40 grand, probably right about now if Gail has paid that bill. So we will not be, we can go out to bid before, but we can't pay for that until after the fiscal year
Well, I don't-
starts.
Yeah, if we're looking at a used, I don't think we're. gonna bid on
Springtime,
anything, right?
yeah.
I mean, we gotta kind of find something and get it.
Yep. And then the other thing, the way I've been doing the trucks is that when we buy the last truck, so we bought a truck in 2022 and the net cost was that 150,064. I start inflating from that number at 2.5% a year. Well, 2.5% a year seemed like it was a pretty good number. But now it's maybe not because inflation is a lot higher. So this is just what I'm running and, we are building up a surplus some years and then we're down to pretty low. And I think you can see that our basic plan is what you see in like 25 and down. But we've also added things in as we go along. That's why there are all those extra lines up above. So we could start reducing that because we're increasing our contribution and it 1% gets a lot bigger once you get up to bigger numbers. So we're at 79.6 for 2024. So the budget year we're looking at as our contribution. We could increase it or we could drop that down because as you see, we get as low as 36, but then we start rising up again. So I'm happy to play with this and either keep that number in there. I mean, I will point out you could slide a used wood chipper in there and the numbers will still work. Or we could fund that through ARPA, or we could decide not to do it. But this is a nice presentation of how this spreadsheet works, and it's not anything complicated. And then over here on the right, this is where I go through at the end of the fiscal year with Gail and make sure my number matches hers. So we are correct up through the end of fiscal year 22, which was July 1 of this year. So the only question for right now that you have the big picture is if you want to keep the number for 2024 at 79.6, which is what Gail has in the budget. Because I sent her the spreadsheet.
You're saying this has the room for a wood chipper to get slid in
Yes,
there.
and the way you can see that is that at the end, after we buy the used grader, we're gonna have $40,000.
Yep.
In the balance, and then we'll have enough. We would have to be a little clever about how we paid for the truck. Cause this would then be down.
Right.
To $10,000, assuming we spend
Yep.
25. So it cuts it close.
Yep.
If we put the wood chipper in there. We could also, and my guess would be we probably shouldn't make any big ARPA decisions until we get a better sense of salt and
Yeah.
sand.
Right.
I mean, seeing that and hearing you say that, makes me just think of if we're looking at buying a piece of equipment we plan on using regularly and will need to replace eventually, it makes sense to have it in here. Because
Right.
otherwise, we're not gonna be budgeted for it, and if our crew is used to using it and it becomes a part of our regular
And
maintenance for our roads.
yep,
And if we do purchase a chipper, is that something that we're gonna possibly loan out to other towns? Okay, all right, so I just wanna make sure, because I know that's been brought up before. I wanna make sure that that's okay.
I don't like that idea. That
I don't
would be
either.
You guys, but if I also.
No,
know-
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
Because that creates whole other issues. When they break it and we gotta fix it, so.
and I had a similar spreadsheet when I was on the board previously. And then Stan kept it up. And then I think it just stopped. And so I would ask that. Happy to send this to anyone. I really think this gives us a nice long-term view.
Yeah.
And this is really, as a town, this is where we spend the most money right here. So we need to just be prepared. And there was a big flurry of sort of spending that happened, not really budgeted, when we did the transition from Hollis to Eric. And so if you have this all planned out, then I think it's very clear to everyone, this is the way the select board is running it, and you can certainly change it at any time, but it gives you a sense of what you can and can't afford, or how much you need to budget for annually. And when I first started, it was at 50, and the second year I had to raise it to 75, and people were grumpy at me. And the problem was you couldn't replace 2 trucks every 7 years on the 50,000. And what had happened was the 50,000 was left over from when we had the small trucks. And we went to the big trucks, which are more expensive. And to pay for that, the idea was we were going to keep them for 10 years. So when I come back 10 years later and our trucks are really expensive to maintain in year 8, 9, and 10, I think the decision was, ooh, 7 was a better year. And that cost us 25,000 there. So those are the kinds of decisions that will, influence this. Like maybe you go to 8 years, maybe you don't. We got that loader to last 25 years, Hollis. I remember when we bought that. So, all right, so that's where that is. Let's go to the highway budget. Comments, questions, things we missed.
11/13, the copy of my ability insurance. I did get an estimate from the lease to the new garage. It's gonna add another $2,100 to that. The 8,600 is gonna increase by 2,100.
So it's gonna be 10,700.
And that's insuring it at 700,000 and the $50,000 in contents.
50,000 in contents
The trucks are
insured.
insured as
Otherwise.
separate vehicles. Yeah.
Okay.
So the contents are, the welders, the compressor, the tools.
Yeah,
Normal stuff that doesn't go out of the building.
got it.
Mm.
Um,
And I didn't put any raise in there. You guys have to figure out if you're gonna give us a raise or not give us a raise.
I would make a motion that we,
well, there are 2 things to think about before you make a motion, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
no, I don't mind. I realized
Let's give a raise.
I was,
Woo-hoo.
well, I remember what we,
That's
isn't
double my pay.
Woo-hoo.
it a percentage? It's just,
We often You know, I have just too many pieces of paper here.
Sometimes through the CPI, but it's. really
We
hard
get-
to figure it out.
Right,
The select board gets paid what, every,
once a year,
At the end of.
the fiscal year.
okay.
So. There are two different things for us to think about. One is, are our salaries on par with other municipalities who have the same jobs? And so we have a really thick book over here. I think it was on the chair earlier today. It's about this thick.
It's
And
right here.
Many towns, not all, report exactly what they're paying their road foreman and their town clerk and their treasurer, and you can look across.
You can look over.
And I'll make copies of this.
The survey.
Hmm.
And so I went through there and I wrote down, they show you the average and the median. And I think that's one thing for us to consider. Sure. I want to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the other thing is, so we could either reset based on salary, or we could reset based on a combination of salary and CPI, or just I will say, I have been asking, I serve on 2 nonprofit boards, I work for a nonprofit. I asked a couple friends, like, so what are you guys getting for CPI this year? The highest I heard was 5. And I heard 0, and I heard 3. So I don't think anybody except Social Security recipients are getting 8.2, which is, I think.
But we're
But-
currently average with all, with other towns.
I don't think we are. That is something I want us to look at. And we don't, the way this budget process works, ideally, and we're a month behind, is we look at it the first time in November, and then we say, here are the 3 things we want to think about, and we come back in December, and we have those numbers, and we refine it, and then we finalize it in January. And maybe we can do it in 2 meetings.
Can I get a copy?
Yes, actually, this is
It's the
yours
copy.
and mine's still in the copier, sorry about that. Or maybe we will need an extra budget meeting. I
Yeah,
would not be surprised. So this just shows the average and the median. I think we might be $1 or 2 lower in a couple of our positions. I will say that we're paying 100% of health insurance, which is this longer thing at the bottom. And most towns are paying between 82 and 95. So we are a little more generous than average. So
But
that's a
on those
balance.
towns, are they providing? We have a low cost policy
right,
with the HRA. funded by
Right.
HRA. So that might.
and it
affect what they're paying.
shows you over here. It just shows you the count, like 54 have HRAs, 26 have HSAs, 17 have I'm not sure what a FSA is or an FSADC, but anyway. This is the information that's available
we
in the
just
book.
cover individuals, or do we know
We,
enough about our policy? To be able to read this properly.
okay, so. I'm gonna answer her question and then, but I'm not sure I know the answer, so I'm gonna look at Gail. We pay 100% of the individual.
Okay.
We have, as Gail was just saying, we have an HRA, which is a health reimbursement account, which means the town funds, sort of like over on the side, health reimbursement account, and the first
I think it's-
amount, $2,000 or something.
No, it's out of pocket. A couple years ago, they switched to a lower cost, so the out of pocket went up for the employees to
Okay,
like $8,100 a person. So that's why we have this HRA account to reimbursement if somebody actually needs that out of pocket, we'll reimburse up to that $8,100. Because the insurance rates are less.
If you have a big deductible.
okay.
But the cost to the employee, I believe, is 0.
Correct.
And Gail's is a little different because she is Medicare eligible, so we cover the full costs of her Medicare. The letters B, D,
Right,
and
Medicare is something that's covered by Medicare. then you have a B and then you have supplemental and.
Right.
So,
And our policy, our personnel policy, I believe, reads that we cover the employee. And then we will cover the spouse / partner if they are not eligible for health insurance through their work. I believe.
Right.
And somewhere along the line during my first tenure, Gail negotiated to have her spouse covered. And so we have just continued that. And so that's how her policy reads. And Eric's on a single and whatever Ron's on.
it's him and Jamie are covered.
Um,
But the personnel policy says anybody new hired. If the
It's just
spouse
them.
has. To get insurance someplace else, they have to, you won't cover the
Right.
spouse.
and there was, I'm sorry, this is a really long answer. I know you wanted to say something. This all went through one of the most rigorous reviews I've ever been through in a town of Tinmouth committee. Because we had some professionals who worked at the Rutland Hospital on our team, and I was taking the notes and they averaged 5 pages per meeting. So we went through the personnel policy and, we were often being held up compared to the hospital, like the hospital has a 25% copay. And, what are they asking? And Judy Fox was on that committee and her husband was on the road commissioner, so she knows exactly what it's like to be on call all winter. And she just kept saying, you need to take care of your employees. And that's really how we got to, like at one point there was like, yeah, we should do 10%. And none of the boards I've sat on have ever done that. We could certainly discuss it. But this is where we have been for the 6 years I have been on the board. Or, yeah, because I don't think I was on the board when we had that committee. Yeah, it was,
It's all,
I
the
know.
last 38 years. we just.
Paul, you
At-
had
at
something
one
to
point
share.
there was-
Oh,
We got higher benefits because the pay was low, so the town could provide health insurance, and that's before it got really expensive, but that's how.
Right.
The town. Supported the employees by giving them better benefits.
yes.
My question was, are these, similar sized town population wise?
Not at all. It's just the average of all towns and the median of all towns. And like they tell you the name of the town, but in order to try to pull it out, it would have been, a lot more work than I was willing to do. So I went to the bottom of each section and I looked at the average and the median. And certainly, someone in Burlington would make more money than someone in Tinmouth, absolutely. And I would imagine that, in most of the smaller towns, the salaries are similar. So I think that if you were to just say, look at, that line there, 107,700, which is 2 highway employees. And add what we typically do is we say, what's CPI? And I think last year you can see CPI was 5 point something and we did that full amount. And if we did 8.27, which is what I think Medicare is, it would be a significant boost. Welcomed by the employees, I'm sure. Perhaps not so much by the taxpayers, but
I'm a taxpayer too.
exactly. Okay, exactly. Yeah, so there are a lot of placeholders in this budget. And if people want to think about this, I think, Gail, if you could pull for us and send it to us sooner rather than a month from now, what our current wages look like, that wage sheet that we review and update every year when we're budgeting. And then we can all put that next to this. That will be helpful, and then we'll come up with a number. And whatever percentage we apply generally or historically across all our employees. So if we pay 5%, the road commissioner gets that, the town clerk and all those affiliated duties. all increase at the same amount. Historically.
Right. And the difference, that increase in CPI. Why is that? I'm not understanding why
Sorry.
it's so different.
The 99,000 compared to the 107.
No,
Oh.
the 8.1% versus the 5%.
Cost of living per year.
Inflation is really high.
And it's just really expensive this year.
Yeah.
Consumer price index is CPI, and that's what the federal government says the increased cost of living was for the year that for them ended on September 30th.
Right.
So they're applying it to January 1. And while we're all experiencing that, I mean, we can start there. That would be an increase of 107. 700 times. That would bump you to 115,965.
What would that make there? That changes, yeah.
Right, and then you do the same to all of Gail's jobs.
Right.
So it would probably be a, you know, whatever it would be. Do you have a new health insurance number? It
Yes,
is,
it's plugged in.
and is that, we have often carried,
That's with, in case Eric gets married, he's always asked us to budget for her. So it's in there.
but she will have a job. I mean, I think we should probably budget for a single, if you're okay with that. Understanding that if for some reason Heather was no longer employed where she was, you could come to us and you could get married if you chose. I believe we have in the past have a civil union policy as well, if that's more appealing. Domestic partner, didn't we do domestic partners there for a while?
But it changed with the personnel policy when you adopted the personnel policy.
Okay. But we did we did that for a while, you know,
Yeah.
we do those things for a while. So, you know, I think that if we were to make that 32,000 be for, a single for Eric, it would give us a little more wiggle room in the wage line item,
Yeah,
but unless you have a wedding plan, in which case I hope we're all invited.
I do not have a wedding plan.
Okay, they're fun, ton of work,
I did the last one.
ton of work, turns out. Nice to think about how fun it was now that it's over. All right, how do people feel about what I mean, I feel like I picked this up at 3:30. I can't make
Yeah.
any decisions right now. What would be helpful, Gail, because I know you're reaching out to get final numbers on things, is as, you know, ideally before the next meeting, if we could have this to ponder with better numbers. And I don't mean, you know, current numbers, that would be helpful.
Do we? The only one I'm wondering about is diesel fuel.
Yeah, I saw that. What are you paying now? 5, 6 something?
I don't know, I just wonder if there's we could call Champlain, maybe we're on a spreadsheet there and we can see what our average usage is. That would give us a better. You know, then get a current
Yep.
price.
Do you wanna,
I can see if-
did we go out to bid for diesel?
We did not do it this year.
Oh, no, we didn't. We usually do.
Yep, but if you wanted to call them and just similar to this salt and sand, that would be really helpful. I agree. And then, you know, find out what the cost is.
We just paid $4.24.
Good night.
fuel oil.
Thanks, Hollis.
So hopefully. Diesel's going down.
Have we ever checked with Johnson's? See what they're at?
Yeah.
They're nuts. Are they high? They're okay.
Champlain beats the crap out of
Champlain beats everybody hands down.
That's crazy.
You know, he's doing it 10 cents over the rack rate in Rutland.
Wow.
And Marcel would do 22 cents and
And
Johnson
Johnson's
was
is way up.
way up.
Wow.
Yep, and I wonder about that, you know, even I'm now looking at the winter salt. And even at the 90. Oh, I told you what the number was. It
It was
was
like
less than 45, and wondering if we can reduce that.
Right, to like 40,000 or.
I would just be careful. Because the way our renters are, if we keep cutting budgets, we're gonna be over budget.
Yeah. you
Right, I
don't
mean,
know.
the thing that we changed, I'm not used to yet, is we used to budget for 100% of the taxes to be paid, which they never are, plus we would budget for delinquent taxes. So we were projecting more revenue coming in than we were generally getting, and we went through an audit, and it was pointed out to us that that was the wrong way to do it. So we changed it, so now we budget 0 for delinquent taxes. And it's another thing that like you just can't predict, right? Like who's gonna get behind, how big is it gonna be, when are they gonna be able to pay, are you waiting for a sale? But you know, we ran a surplus at the end of last year in highway of 37.5. Is that right? Yeah, which it would be nice to be able to actually not have to charge the taxpayers that money and get a little closer.
Right,
On the other hand, some of that was
right.
the extra work that you guys did on the garage. That also pays for Glenn. Etc. So I don't know about you guys, I'm not really ready to work on this, but I would like us to. So here's what happens. We have a meeting the second Thursday in January, and the budget has to be finalized, as does the warning to go in the town report by
Usually it's the.
the end of the month, somewhere in there. So
They had to have it.
what often happens is we have that meeting in January and we're not ready, and then it's this huge rush and Gail's trying to get the rough draft and.
Yeah.
So we can try to do it all in January if you want. We can set an extra meeting between now and then, or we can set an extra meeting like maybe even the week after that, depending on what else is on the agenda.
Set an extra meeting, so we're not pulling our hair out at the.
When would you like to do that?
What is the date in January? Could we just have a special budget meeting that all it is?
Yeah, I
is
think
budget?
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Could be like.
it could be
the
on a
Tuesday
Saturday.
before,
if
Or
you
a Saturday,
wanted.
yeah, it could be any day.
So
So our regular meeting
Could we do
in
it?
January
before-
is the 12th. Yep. So assuming we can find a time that's mutually works for everyone, we could do it that first week in January.
so you wanna do it like the 3rd?
Gail is gonna tell us
Oh,
when she's free. The 3rd is a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, that's fine.
That would be fine for me.
Because your regular meeting is here, so.
so you wanna
And
do,
there's usually you have a meeting down here some point, just if you have to.
right.
It
so
would be a special budget meeting. So all we would do is talk about. budget.
budget.
Yep.
Um,
And do you want to do that at 6?
I was just thinking of 6.
So January 3rd at 6, special budget meeting. Perfect. And in the meantime, your homework is to study this, and like you can see, I went through and circled a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things I circled, Eric, that you could do some confirming for us if you haven't already, is our winter contracts for West Tinmouth. Do we have that lined up?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
do
I've
we
already-
know what the heck happened last year?
Well, they didn't do much over there.
There
So
just
that's
wasn't
why.
that much work to do.
there-
Meaning the roads were terrible because they didn't do them, or it didn't snow a lot, or what does
Well,
that mean?
in the beginning, his sander was broke down and this, that, and the other thing, so we had to go over and do it.
Mhm.
And then as the winter progressed, it snowed a little bit and didn't amount to anything. So they might have thrown a little sand on, but they didn't have a lot of plowing. So that's why it was.
I've
way
never
lower
seen
than-
it that low.
It was way lower than I thought it was gonna be, and I think they maybe made a mistake, but it was in our favor, so I said nothing.
Well, I think you
And
did
this
ask
is-
though, right? Yes.
I asked Bill and I asked Frank.
Yeah.
And they compared their notes and that's what they came up with. And
Okay.
so that's what.
As long as we have someone secured, that is,
Yep, I've already. I
My
asked, he
primary.
said As far as he is concerned, it's business as usual, so.
And I do think in my conversation with the road commissioner, he said it's kind of, what's the right word? He's on,
pins and needles,
No.
eggshells,
no,
we playing charades?
no. Because of the job that was done last year, if it's the same thing that happens this year, next year, we might find somebody else.
Oh.
I see what you mean.
It's on
The nice.
Probation,
probation.
all right, just quickly, other things, Eric brought up diesel, I think that you're gonna check into number of gallons. Winter salt, we can plug a number in based on our last average for the last couple years. Wondering if you think we need to increase gravel and stone. Cause you were over in 22, Eric.
Yep.
Winter contracts, we talked about, equipment rental, you're regularly going over. So does that need to go up? And is, is that like wood chipper, or is it something different?
Mulcher.
Mulcher.
Mulcher mostly, yeah, and wood chipper, but hopefully we can purchase. Get one here.
What do you, have you looked at that at all? Have you found, like roughly just looking at what used ones are running?
Yeah, there's. They're from $1,000
So
to
jump to
$50,000.
roads, yeah.
You're talking about wood chippers? Yeah.
Yeah, they really, it's a real wide variety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you want to get something nice, you're gonna have to spend
20, 30 grand.
20, 25.
So if you could think about those numbers and give them to Gail, and we'll get them in before that budget meeting. The other ones I think we need to look at are electricity and fuel oil and propane. I'm assuming that those will increase. I mean, I think you won't be plugging trucks in, as many maybe you'll plug something in.
Shouldn't have to.
But, I did look at the electric bill and I can't tell if it's the electric space heater in the transfer station, a little bit,
Could be.
and then a lot of plugging trucks in, or I don't know what that balance is. I think it's really important that they unplug that at the transfer station when they leave for safety, if nothing else. But the electric bill triples in the winter.
Mm.
And I think that's what those are the two things that come to mind.
Right, and I did increase the fuel oil propane $500, just thinking that. And
Right,
how much is the new one gonna use, I don't know.
how much is that ventilation system gonna run, which is gonna be sucking the hot air to the outside? Do we want to spend 20,000 on a heat recovery ventilator? Probably not. Sorry to say.
No.
All right. Yeah. Anything else people want to look at now, or should we move on because it's 7:30 and we still have a lot of items to look at? So one thing I will tell you in case I forget is that if we say we want a 3.5% increase, Gail will increase everyone but herself. So I would just make the motion right now that whatever increase we give our employees, that it be very clear that it goes to all employees, because it's awkward for Gail to give herself a raise when she's building the budget. So let's just acknowledge that. 'Cause That's Michael's job to remind us, and I'm taking that on. So know that that is
Yeah.
an awkward thing, and
Did you make a motion?
I did make that motion.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, please now treat all your jobs just the same as all the others. Okay,
The only thing with listers, that was over by,
and our listers
17.
over,
The listers were over because we had a brand new lister and we tried to catch up on some stuff that we hadn't done in the last 2 years because of COVID. We actually, did more stuff. So
so do you need to Is 3,800 enough, or do you need it to be more, do you think? You went up 200, it looks like. Or no, sorry, you kept it the same as last year.
Are you caught
This
up?
year.
I will look at that and see.
Okay. Similarly, I have the same question with the select board assistant and completely acknowledging that that job has grown and grown and grown. The last full year it was 8,700 and we're budgeting 75.
Right, I didn't do anything to the salaries for this budget.
Okay,
I just
so,
left them until
if
you
you
had a
could-
discussion about them.
Right, we might need to increase the assistant up slightly if our assistant costs that much this year.
But there was. there
and then we're
something-
gonna increase, we're gonna give a CPI or something, so it's gonna be,
It's gonna be slightly more based on that.
Was there something that the assistant did that was out of the ordinary? That caused that to be?
Let's
More
just
work.
keep asking you to do
Right.
Sorry.
so we come to one meeting a month. And I'm a little hopeful that you're prepping for one meeting instead of two most months is gonna be helpful, because 2 meetings was
There's
just
a lot of.
a lot
prep
of
to get.
prep. And I hope that that can continue, but I don't know if it will, but.
Yep.
When Gail and I were first doing this, and I, way back when, like, we didn't have a select board assistant, we kept saying to Gail, you should do this, and she's like, wait, this is not my job, right? It's not the town clerk's job, it's not the treasurer's job. So pretty much everything we ask her to do, except, for example, preparing the budget, I believe is the job of the treasurer. Most of what we ask her to do is under the auspices of select board assistant. And as we have finessed the job description and as more things have been asked by everybody, right? The state and the town and extra projects we do. She's the only one here
Right, well, no.
who's on the payroll.
Right,
I mean, we're on the payroll kind of, right?
right,
A little bit. So yeah, we keep doing that.
yes,
And unless we get more volunteers, or we, I personally volunteer a lot of time and I am maxed out. That is why we have a select board system is, and, I encourage you to think about a select board assistant, if that would be helpful to you. And pay for it out of the same line.
Are we caught up on the roadside mowing number right from here? We got an actual number here that's actually less than.
I just saw a bill come through, right, the last one.
Roadside mowing.
We're at 5135 right now, that's 2020.
That was 2022.
Oh,
No, I
year's-
think we're at
this
much
year's-
more.
This year's was 7,500 and 1,000. And I don't know how we did the second round for 1,000 and the first was 7,500, but I think we need to have a conversation with him about if that's the right number, or if he gave us a lower number the second time around because he was training somebody.
so that he definitely was. I do know that, I have talked to him. He was training someone.
Right, no, I could see it wasn't him driving the thing.
Yeah, the second guy was much lower rate, but same piece of equipment, so. But I'll ask him if that's a solid number for next year.
Right,
I think that's a good idea. And then some of these other things, that vary. I don't know if you've gotten, health insurance numbers or
yeah,
the ones that you have, for the town are good. Yep. Perfect.
put in insurance numbers, I put in the organizations and dues, we got those. David Fox sent me the new number for the sheriff's contract.
Perfect.
What I can tell you about solid waste is
Yes.
why it says 0 for the state trash tax.
Mhm.
Turns out Hubbard's been paying it all these years,
And we have two.
and we have too.
Oh my God.
And when I talked to Sue at Hubbard, she said she tried not to pay for the towns, and the state insisted they pay for it all. And nobody really knew that they were doing that until somebody inquired, and Pam Clapp inquired or somebody, so now I've got to calculate how much we should be getting a refund from the state. They shouldn't be double clip.
Will they
charging
do
us.
that? Do we
I don't
think?
know.
Yeah. You go, Gail.
We
Good
got a
luck.
refund one time because we were the only ones paying it at the very beginning.
Even if they're getting,
And the state, said, all right, you can apply for this refund because nobody else in the state was paying it but us. So we got this big refund.
And I think this is just a good time to ponder, so our total cost for trash is 29,260 budgeted, and our revenue for trash,
I haven't given you the-
oh, we don't, anyway, when you look at that, it's less than half. And we're already charging
250 back.
$250 a bag. So. Know that. You
Yeah.
know, we can go up if you want. I think every board has always felt nervous about. We should charge exactly what it costs, like. That would be hard. So we pay a portion through taxes and a portion through.
And there were some towns that were paying it all in taxes and the state made them go to a user fee. So a lot of towns had to institute charging people for something.
Yeah.
The part of it.
Where is the sheriff's department?
It's on page 3. Law enforcement.
Okay,
And that 24,800 is based on 10 hours a week, so 52 weeks. I don't think last year we got all of that, so it only cost us 17. So,
And has there ever been a discussion of upping the time they spend in this town?
well, we did that,
We've upped it.
yeah, we raised the hours a couple years ago.
yeah, it was a
because we did
special
this
vote,
four
like,
town- We did
Yeah.
this 4th-town thing with Danby, us. Middletown and Ira, and every town agreed to do 10 hours a week, so that this deputy had 40 hours to do, and some weeks he's in Tinmouth for 12 hours, and someplace 8 hours, and the next week it'll be 8 hours here and 12 hours there. They balance it out. But it looks like we're not getting 520 hours, so it might be we need to have a discussion with Dave Sheriff about getting a little more coverage.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through the rigmarole of doing all the speed study and stuff, and it's,
Right.
and we're gonna need to enforce it,
And
so
when you
it's,
talk to Deputy Cram, he says, well, at the beginning, you didn't want to be like Wallingford, nailing everybody. You wanted to be the kinder, gentler, slow people down, but.
I think you were
But
going
the
to
other end
liaise
of-
with him.
yeah, he's not usually liaised
Well, we
with.
could ask him to come into a meeting and we could let
Oh.
him know what we think.
I mean, there's a difference between just being present. I mean, we could paint a sheriff's car and have it present in town.
That's
I
what somebody
mean-
said the
I
other
mean,
day.
just,
We could put it-
I mean,
We could buy one.
so,
When he goes in, I think, Harley went in one day and couldn't find him.
no,
He wouldn't
we,
answer or anything. He was in the bathroom, but he didn't say anything. I was just thinking the guy,
no,
passed out or something. but-
there's a difference between just being present and actually,
Well, then I think maybe we need to have the sheriff come in and have a conversation. with us. I mean,
Yeah.
as part
That would
of-
be an
if we
excellent
want-
thing for February,
Yeah,
right? Because here's the
That's-
thing, January is really busy.
Yeah,
because
no,
we're
I
trying to
know.
get the town
Right.
report, and then February. Breathe. Although-
town meeting.
We're getting ready for town meeting. I think we're also gonna have this special town meeting in February, but anyway,
I think we're gonna have it in the end of January.
okay, end of January, whenever. We're gonna have extra meetings.
Yeah.
Bummer. All right,
We'll fit them in.
ready
somewhere.
to move on from
Yeah.
the budget?
Yes.
All right, anything else from you, Eric, on the highway side? If you have numbers you want to suggest, please get them to Gail, so our next version that we see have the numbers you would like to see in
What
there.
you did ask him at the last meeting was to work on something about determining how long we need Glenn for.
Oh, right,
for the
let's talk about
person.
Glenn. So Glenn reached out to me and said, I really need to know how many weeks I'm gonna work.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to plan around it, which I thought was a very reasonable request. So let's try really hard to do that. I would like to be able to say, we would like to contract with you for
32 weeks.
whatever you tell me. And so we'll put that number in the budget and we'll see how we do. right?
32 weeks.
What did we do this year? Nowhere near that.
No, we did 25-ish, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause I held him. I held him off because I was trying to be budget.
Yeah. And that was really hard for him financially.
Agreed.
He shared, he shared.
So,
Um,
and where are we at? Where does that fine line come in with the amount of time that he spends working for us versus like insurance wise? Where we don't have.
well, he's
insurance
still a
is-
temporary employee if he's only,
Part-time, so
Yeah.
you don't have to provide
Okay,
insurance or retirement.
Right.
Because it's
That's on
permanent
him.
Part-time.
and we pay him more than the rest of the
Because-
crew for that reason.
Got
I
it.
believe, just to give you some comparison, I believe we budgeted for 7.5 weeks. And we were able to pay him for more weeks because we were charging ourselves for the work that they did at the town garage. And that was bringing in extra revenue that was gonna offset Glenn. So that's
correct.
that's how we did that. You know, to actually increase that line from 7, I'm just gonna use 1,000 a week as a guesstimate, but, and it'll be more with the CPI or whatever, but, you know, for to go from 7,500 to 32,000 is gonna be a problem. So the challenge for you is to trim everything down to a place you're comfortable and see how close you can get us.
Right.
Right? Like, I mean, I get it. It's great to have a third guy. Right? I get it.
Yeah, no, it's you can actually move forward and.
Well, and particularly in a year like this one where if you a giant extra project.
Right.
That and the
We're
third
gonna have that
person,
again year after next.
the
Probably.
third
And
person in the winter is nice too. Well, third person year round is nice, but
Well, but like what would you do with a third person in the winter? When you're not, like when you're plowing, it'd be awesome,
right,
Right,
but
Probably cut some trees.
right. You can
you
cut
go cut
trees.
trees, there you go.
You had the brush, if you had the equipment to back you up. Here,
The chipper, is that what you mean, or the $4,200 guy?
no, the chipper.
Chipper.
Just checking.
Yeah, no, I'm not on that team. Whatever, oh, I mean, there's plenty of work, there's gonna always be brush to cut. And
Right.
And I might have missed it. You said 32 weeks at how many hours a week? 40.
And right now we're paying him 25, which makes the math quite easy.
Yep.
So it'll be more than that, you know, whatever. 3 to
That was
5.
basically, I figured from 1st of May to November 1st. I believe.
what is that, like a $7,000 difference?
No,
Like
32,000 compared to 7,500.
Oh, I was going, no, sorry. I
That would
was
be like
thinking
a
weeks.
25,000.
I was thinking of weeks, yeah.
Wasn't it?
82 is what we budgeted last time.
Okay, sorry, I misspoke. No, extra help,
Extra help.
7,500. Next line down, FICA, 8,200,
Okay. Yep.
yeah. So,
Haven't had one, something.
oh, I'm sorry,
Neither have I.
I'm sorry, all right, let's go. We're on financial review, fiscal year 23 financial reports.
Please no. I
Which
worked on
there
the
is
budget
none.
instead of the monthly planning thing.
Warrants and orders. I have a question for everyone because I see the warrants and orders. Do you like seeing them? With what regularity? You know, this becomes a big packet. I think, you know, transparency is super important,
Yeah,
but it's also a lot of paper.
it's a lot of paper.
Well, last month, I didn't print the timesheets. I sent them to you electronically, but I didn't print them.
Mhm.
This time I printed them just.
Anybody have
because
feedback
I
on
did,
that?
So,
Yeah,
can you see them okay on your device, or do you want to have them in your hand?
I mean, I can see them
I can
fine.
see them on my device.
Yeah, on
So
my
I don't have to
computer
do the
anyway.
No.
timesheets, I can just do.
I
the
think you can just,
reports.
I
yeah.
can just
And do you
email
want the warrants, which are the first ones showing what we wrote checks for?
that. No, I think all of that electronically is,
Okay,
Yep.
good. We're gonna save 15 minutes a month of Gail's time or whatever it is. All right, questions or concerns about warrants and orders?
No.
Anybody?
Don't think so.
Okay.
There's a couple checks that got voided, they just got made out for the wrong person, and I didn't catch it before we got printed, so.
Okay, follow-up list review, old business. And I believe that Gail did put that in here, in the packet near the back. It's at the ends of the time cards. So. Let's just zip through quickly. I did not, I thought I did send you this after November. Anyway, I'll update it after December. So roller completion. This winter, still the plan. Stormwater updates and plan. We'll put that for January. You and I have a date.
It's on my copy of here.
Eric, December, create a work planner list for road crew projects, including planned stormwater projects on the list in 2023. I'm imagining that's gonna come out of that number 2 above. Is that so?
So my question is, do you guys, I started working on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get my secretary to type it up, with me. And then we can add or subtract from it easily. Do you want me to email it to you when I get it typed up? Before a meeting, or do you want to add it?
Before. would be-
I think it would be great if you did it before, and then people can, people
Digest.
can come with their questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have it done. If it doesn't snow like mad, I should have it done next week.
I'm not ready for it to snow, so it's not.
Me
gonna
neither.
take-
Right, so the next is just a list of what's completed. Did I miss anything?
Probably, but that's okay.
So can those come off?
I think those can come off. I also think number 4 can come off soon. Salt and sand shed, I'll update that, so. What are we called? The consultant selection committee?
The Consultant Selection Committee.
There you go. And the Rutland Regional Planning Commission was hired. Plan for ash tree removal. Select board, tree warden, and road commissioner need to create this. So we have 5,000 in the budget for this year. I don't believe you spent any of that.
Probably not yet.
And then we have 5,000 shown for next year in there. I don't believe, other than, getting some safety gear for Glenn and having him do that training, I don't believe we've actually billed anything to that account. I know you guys have done tree work. That was specifically targeted for ash trees. I thought that you were on board with the big fancy machine, and then I think I heard you say you're not on board with the big fancy machine, so where do you stand these days on ash tree removal?
Well, I started pricing out some stuff, and you can actually get. You can get an 80-foot lift for a month. For the same money as that machine is for a day.
You get an 80-foot lift for 4,200 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
I am surprised to hear that.
So although that machine would be great, but we're still doing all the work.
You're doing all the cleanup. They're just dropping it, right?
Yeah. So, why do we need a $4,000 a day piece of equipment to
Right.
do that?
Well, and I think my suggestion would be that you started, and if you could put together a paragraph of, this is how I'd like to spend the first $5,000. And try to spend it between now and the end of June. And then we'll budget for next year. And then you can assess how your first $5,000 went, and if you decide to, whoops, whatever you decide. Then we can adjust, and maybe it'll include the machine and maybe it won't. I was pretty surprised to hear how much work was left to, I say us, meaning you, with that $4,200 machine.
Yeah. Like,
So
that's
you
like-
think it would be chewing it up and, spitting
Right.
out wood chips for
I
you.
mean, that's a great piece of equipment, but I think it's severely overpriced.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got, $500,000
He does, he's trying to recoup
Of a
his
note
costs, I get it.
somewhere.
Yeah, no, he
Yeah.
does have $500,000 machine and then he.
Or
does
more.
have
I don't know. I
guys-
made that up.
I think it was
It
500,000.
was.
I think it was 500,000. So, I mean, and then he has the guys that are gonna come up. I thought he was bringing guys with him to do
No, that's
That was
just
just him
one
with
guy,
machine.
right?
It's him
the
and,
machine, that's it.
yeah, maybe another guy with a chainsaw, but that's like it. We do all the legwork. It doesn't.
Hi,
then,
you all.
yeah.
This is Nancy. Can I interrupt for 1 sec?
May.
David is not here, but my understanding is that it's $4,200 a day. And if you wanted him to clean it all up for that, he would, but he would move much more slowly. So that was the idea of having the road crew. But, and, frankly, I agree that it might be, if Eric's willing, might as well.
Well, or, yeah, let's try a couple different approaches and see what gets us the most ash trees on the ground.
I've got a call into Valencourt right now too. They haven't called me back. I just want to see what their crew costs for like a week.
And this 80-foot boom truck was 4,200 for 1 month. Who was that through?
That's United Rental. That was right on their website. It was 40. Well, I think it was 4,300 for an 80-footer, but you could get a 60-footer for less.
Yeah.
But I was like, and I talked to United picked up a rental machine from them and I asked him, the guy who picked it up, they're out of White River Junction. And he says, oh yeah, he says, people use these for tree work all the time.
Right. And my guess is that you're not going to be able to fit a month of tree work into your work plan. So
Right.
it's more likely
It's
You're gonna get it for a couple of weeks.
a week
Right.
or maybe 2.
So, which is. The rental rates are so weird, cause like a day is $1,200. Or something like that, and a week was like $2,000. Or it was ridiculous, it was like, well, you might as well have it for a month, because it just makes
Right.
no sense.
Well, what we could do is get it for a month. And then you could coordinate with our painters and our painters could paint with it on the days you're not using
Right,
it.
yeah.
Our Painters. Wouldn't you like a lift? Wouldn't that
Oh,
be
yeah.
great? Yeah. Yeah. Seems to me
Makes
we
sense.
always have painting. All right, so why don't you work on a proposed plan
Okay,
and we'll review that next month. Equipment fund, we've been through that. Spring road maintenance policy,
Probably not gonna happen until February.
did you put that on the listserv and get just crickets?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Nobody was willing to venture.
I know, it seems like kind of a hot potato, honestly. Old Town Garage, road crew will repair and replace exterior doors, fix roof leaks. Any of that happen?
not yet.
It's on the list.
It's
My
on the list.
understanding, it's gonna probably be springtime.
I would say painting is probably better in spring of
I
20.
could probably get.
And was that when
Done this winter.
Yep.
we're looking at painting the building too, obviously? Right.
Well, we don't have much money left in the building fund, do we? I think that is on the list and will get prioritized as we kind of see where we
Mhm.
come in on money. So number 10 will happen in conjunction with salt and sand. Shade tree policy. Okay, you had that for February 22, and now you got it for February 23.
Maybe,
And
maybe this
I
year.
think we have like a template that was given to us. And the question I would really ask you at this point is, and Cherry, I think you were on that committee that met several times, is, what is the most important thing that policy is trying to do, and is it still a priority for us? Do you have anything to add, Cherry? I mean, I think the issue at the time was that, remind me, either someone was asking you to cut a tree because they thought it was dangerous, and you were like, I don't know, should I cut this tree, or like, right? Am I remembering this correctly? This is why we went down this road.
No, I think David. They revised the tree warden statutes. and David got all excited about it, so he
Uh-huh.
was thinking that he wanted to do it, and you know,
Yep.
this came along while we started talking about it, but then it just never,
right.
Joanne Grattan, is that her name? They did a study and they're supposed to come up with a model, a later, you know, like a year ago or so, but I don't think David's reached out to figure out what that is yet. Because they
So why don't
revised.
you give him a call and then you guys can advise us.
Sounds good.
Speaking of dangerous trees, you guys did do a drive around at some point. I don't know if that was ever documented anywhere. I am kind of wondering about the tree right across from Jenkins on the new driveway that nice young man whose name I don't remember was
Butterfoss.
instructed to cut down. And what do we do if he doesn't cut it down?
Well, he's not gonna build his house for a couple of years, so
Mhm,
he might not be using that driveway.
mhm.
And the
I guess-
the permit doesn't say when he has to have it cut by.
I guess I would say that when he comes to apply for a building permit, you inquire and yeah, perhaps we need to revisit his driveway permit and make it clear that the tree needs to go down before he can occupy his home or something.
He would like to come and talk to the select board about that tree.
All right then,
So
he may.
I have spoken with him and he was like to have a reevaluation of his driveway permit. So,
Okay,
but
I mean,
I don't
it's
know when.
still right in the view, right? I mean, it,
Well, the way he cut the way the brush is cut. This is a hot button item, but, the way the brush is cut, I think it's okay. But, again, this is.
yeah, well, he can, suggest that he call Gail and get on the agenda.
I told him that he needs to come to a meeting and we'll talk about it.
And if he feels more comfortable, he could certainly come on the computer.
Also, dangerous trees, the one at this community center, that big branch that broke off.
It's on my list, members' concerns.
That.
Gail called David and asked him to cut it.
Is it a
Nancy, you
good
know, David
live
got my
tree?
email about the tree at the community center.
Say that one more time.
Know if David got my email about Patty Yoder's tree at the community center. I asked his tree warden if he would take care of it. There was some wind damage.
He's away teaching. So I don't know if he got your email. I'm not sure he has cell service.
Well, when is he back?
Tomorrow night.
And did you have something to add? I had brought this up, Nancy, and Meadow, I think, had a concern about it. Just, I don't know if you've seen it, but it might let go on a child. Doesn't
It's not
look
safe.
particularly safe to me.
Yikes.
And it is, it was planted in Patty's memory. It's an elm. It's a nice tree. I don't know if he considers that his job or not, but. we
Well,
would love
and-
if he did.
Eric, is that the stuff that you all are wanting to do, though? I mean, maybe that's a conversation for you and David. I thought you were cleaning up trees now.
Well, we don't have the equipment to do it yet. So
Chainsaw?
we have a chainsaw, but we don't have a chipper. So. there's a
Oh,
lot-
okay,
It's a top. It's the
okay.
top of the tree. But I mean, when the rubber hits the road, the highway department's probably gonna have to handle that either way, right?
Right. Yeah, well, David doesn't have a chipper either, so it would just have to get hauled away, I would imagine.
Whole top of that tree is off.
And
All right,
why
well-
is that David's- Like, do we pay David? Like, why is that
No,
David's job?
I don't know. Gail decided to, I said, let's put it on the agenda and
He's the tree warden. He's supposed to take care of trees.
I know.
I
I
but
don't
we-
think he's supposed to clean them up. I think he's just supposed to assess them, isn't he? But that's
Oh, I
maybe a
think-
good discussion to have going forward. But Gail, I'll have him give you a call on Saturday morning.
I mean, in my mind, that seems like something. I don't know. I feel unless he hasn't, we're covering him with our insurance or anything like that. I mean, that's
Right,
not
I-
a
So
one
I
person
didn't
job
see
even.
it.
I mean,
Did
it's
it-
like a,
Is it something
Did it
that,
last time. I thought he did it the last time. It got hit by lightning. I mean, that tree must be just in the wrong spot. It's
an
not the first time
unlucky
it's been,
tree.
it's not
Yeah.
the first time it's been damaged.
Is that tree something that? I mean, I don't wanna be mean, but is that tree something that should come down?
I think it is now.
I think David needs to look at it as tree board and say, yeah, it's gonna survive, or no, it's not.
Okay, that makes sense. And
So I
then-
think that's the ask, Nance, for David to assess it for, it's a disease resistant elm and it was planted in Patty Yoder's. I think that's what it is. It was planted in Patty's memory and so, sentimental, but if it's just gonna keep falling apart and we should take it down, then he should let us know.
And then
Okay,
I think it makes sense that our highway department take it down. That is what.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I agree.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Yes,
we
I
can-
mean, my question to Gail actually was, is this the school's responsibility or the
true.
town's?
That's where I was.
And I think technically, it's the schools.
Right.
I think I could call the facility manager and say, hey, you have a dangerous branch hanging off a tree here. It came down a week ago. Why haven't you cut it? And he'd be like, no one told me. So we should clarify that.
isn't
Um,
something the town could do and build the school? The town highway department could do.
I don't want to go there. I
Okay.
mean, I think
Yeah.
it's nice for us to give and take and.
Okay.
I mean, that's my personal opinion. If you guys want to say like, hey, there's this. You're supposed to maintain the green and there's this tree branch down and it's gonna cost $500. We'll take care of it and send you a bill. You want us to do it? Like, we can have that conversation. He's a pretty clever guy. He'd probably say, oh, I know a guy who'll do it for less.
Well, I mean, you can't get dragged out either. It's gotta be done,
I agree.
so.
You want us to handle it tomorrow?
Maybe.
You
Yeah.
kind of called
Yeah,
David
if
and,
if you can
It's,
take care of what it is, and
I
if
can
David
get it.
decides the whole thing needs to be cut off, then that's a different project.
I can get in there before the parking lot's full of cars.
Right.
which happens
I
early.
mean, you could literally do it with a loader and chainsaw.
Plus, I don't know how hard it's hooked up there, but, well, I didn't look at it that close, but it may, the whole thing might come down if I get a chain on it, and start pulling on.
No, I mean, loader, cut it. and-
The branch is
Take it
broken off so
longer.
high.
It's hung upside down.
Oh,
Branch.
I didn't know
It's,
that,
it's not a
The-
simple,
okay.
it's
Yeah.
hung upside down.
I
But I
didn't,
can't
It's
do
not
it.
like
with
it's laying on
cars.
the ground.
I didn't.
If it was on the ground,
Cause I
it'd be
didn't
gone.
see it, I haven't looked at it.
Be great if you had a lift truck. You could just go.
Right.
4,200 a week, a month.
Can you go get that tonight?
It's not, I borrowed Morton's. But it's gone now.
All right, sorry, we digress. Roadside right of way wood policy. Report from Gail on statutes that govern this issue, model policies from other towns.
Maybe in
Did
February,
anything
February.
come back on that? I think you were asking, right?
Nothing is coming back. It varies from town to town. How you interpret the statutes.
Yep. All right, look at that, number 13, we did that. And then, so we'll just say create committee.
So I'm assuming this committee will meet after the first of the year.
I think if Kevin and Gail could coordinate that, that would be awesome.
What are we doing?
We're gonna get
Set your
the
first meeting of the
yeah.
traffic study.
transportation Committee thing,
Yeah.
I think we'll wait until after the first of the year.
Okay,
Now we're into Gail's list, continuity of operations.
I haven't done a thing.
Yep. Oh, we'll move it to February. Do you have a full complement of assistants now, or do you have an opening still? I just feel like we need more help.
I do,
No,
I do. It's complicated.
well, let us know if we can support you, like if
Yeah.
you need another position, I mean. Don't take this as criticism, but we all acknowledge that there's more to do than you can do it. There's more to do than you can do yourself. And I know you do have 2 part-time assistants, but I'm not sure that's enough. So if you could think about that as we're designing this budget, just as we're asking Eric to think about some things, I think I would love for you to be caught up someday. And if that requires additional assistance, then let us know. Number two, I actually talked to Sandy, who said they had a lot more other important things to do. And she said, really, I'd much rather have the checkbooks reconciled than work on that project, Kathy,
Oh,
which is
dear.
what made me feel like you needed more help. So, yeah, I feel like that's really important, and we've been trying to get it done for almost 3 years, and we're no further along. Gail will schedule auditor meeting to review, and Sandy was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about, Kathy. And I'm like, wait, you haven't talked to Gail about this? And she's like, no.
We have, and I've showed her the box over there that I have with all the model.
Yeah,
policies in
and
it,
then she said, I'd much rather have the checkbooks reconciled. So, yeah, it's an opportunity. We paid 30 grand for a stinking audit. We should up our game as a result. Number three, Equity and Inclusion Committee. I received an email.
I
I think
emailed
everyone
a
got it.
report.
I
Yep.
saw, I didn't look at it though. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I just read it in the minutes when I was reading the minutes and I was supposed to do it, and then I thought I would just at least email it out so it was
Yeah.
there.
Well, and I think that would be a great process to do either annually or
Yeah,
twice a year or something.
the template I used was an
And-
annual report, so I put that on there, and then I'm seeing here it says more than that, so it can be biannual.
That's
or-
fine. Yeah. And I don't think the idea was that you would necessarily write something, but maybe we would include it on the agenda.
Yeah,
And
I,
I defer to you on what the right thing is.
yeah. I wasn't
Um,
sure what was expected, so I thought I would at least write a report. Nice. And then it would be
Right,
there.
because you'll need something for town report.
Right.
See, there you go. It's all done.
Included.
Right.
Then you need to be thinking about that, because that email is going out pretty soon if anybody wants to put something in the town report. We
Yeah,
Need it by
okay.
January 1st.
Okay, how is our friend Zach doing on the tech plan?
I haven't heard from him, so I guess he hasn't got the equipment yet.
Okay, still on order. An update for next meeting would be awesome. The MRUUSD agreement, which is the school district. Gail and I met with the insurance company yesterday. One day this week, I forget what day it was.
It was yesterday.
And the issue is that we have a contract with the school district that was written when we merged that uses some kind of nebulous language about how the school is responsible, here's the words, when school is in session.
Mhm.
So who carries the insurance when school is not in session? Well, it turns out you can't have two insurance policies on the same building.
Ah,
Our insurance company is covering us for liability. And we can add the contents that we own in that building to our policy as listed items. And like all we own that's in there technically is like the chairs and tables that are used for events, the stage, some chafing dishes and coffee pots and miscellaneous. It's just the sound system, a 20-year-old sound system. It's just not a big deal.
Right.
The biggest issue that the school called out is that they believe that our events are not covered by their insurance. So if someone
Right.
burned the building down during a volleyball game, or pick on whoever you want, pickleball or church or a
Yeah.
birthday party, there could be a messy situation. And what this woman, who's our underwriter, said is that she is going to talk to her colleagues we get our insurance from the league. And we may need to amend some of the language in our contract to make it really clear that the school district needs to provide that coverage. The problem is that they say their policy requires a school employee to be on site whenever the building is in use, which is why it costs $200 to rent the basketball court at Wallingford,
right,
because you're paying overtime for a custodian.
right.
And we don't want that. So we are still in process, but we have taken a step forward.
Great.
So,
She's gonna get back to us. We didn't make any decisions and we don't have anything to present to you. but I've described the problem to you.
So technically, when no one's there, and someone's using the community center, there's no insurance.
Well, if your family rented it for a family reunion and something bad happened. Everyone's gonna get sued. We're insured for liability, so like someone slips and falls
Right.
and breaks their ankle. And apparently the school district did have that situation, someone broke something playing volleyball somewhere. I don't remember what their example was, and there's a lawsuit. And the insurance is covering, and in their case, there was an employee as required present. Well, when our people play volleyball, there is no employee present. And so they're saying, you know, we see this as a gap in insurance and you, Tinmouth, need to cover it. And our insurance company said you can't have two insurance companies insuring the same building at different times.
So we have,
Right? Is that your understanding of what she said?
And
Yeah,
we don't want Lisbon to tell us is that we have to have the same policies the other schools in the district have.
Right.
So it just needs to be worked out, and part of it is we're getting something third hand about what Lisbon is requiring, and so.
oh,
Right.
we
okay.
need to-
We were-
You need to hear
we were
directly.
hoping that they might know someone over there. And so she was gonna do a little,
Excellent.
you know.
Backdoor snooping, to see if it's something that's required, or, you know, just
Or not,
suggested.
right.
Yeah.
Right, there's
How better-
actual
how
language.
better use it.
Yep.
I mean, this bit should cover the school. If the town is a named insured, because we
Right.
do own it. Because if you look at the number of hours in a year.
Right.
School uses it more hours than the town does.
Right.
by a long shot.
Yeah,
Okay, number 6, housing rehab program review.
That's on the, is it report there someplace on
Sorry.
the table.
Nice. There are 5 outstanding loans and mortgages, 2 pay regularly, 1 balance is 2,100. The other's balance is 4,600, 1 pays occasionally as funds allow. That's 2 loans, 2 are deferred due to inability to pay. Town will collect when the property transfers to a new owner. Current checkbook balance is 5149. Do you have any recommendations for how we're managing that? Kind of, it is what it is, right?
30,000, so.
I did, I know.
We'll get paid back in drips and drabs, and
Right,
at some
and,
point we'll have something else for it, use it for.
right. And,
And now that we don't do the program anymore, we haven't loaned anything out in a long time. We just send people to Neighbor Works,
right,
so they do stuff like that. So basically, we're just collecting it.
yes, and that was a program, we were the lead on a multi-town
In 1990.
1990, and it was not our money that was loaned. So the fact that we're still owed this money is like sort of too bad, but it wasn't, it was federal money
Yeah,
in the beginning.
And ours is the last program where the town got to keep the money.
Right.
We could have, well, we did, we took the 30,000 and did
So
something
towards
else
the
with
town
it.
garage, yeah,
Anybody that has a program now, if you don't use the money, you have to give it back to the state so they can loan it out to somebody else.
well, isn't that handy?
Well, and we started out
1990.
loaning this
Yeah,
money
that's
out. A
right.
couple of these people on here actually, you know. they
Have
got-
more than
they
one
got a
loan,
well
right?
And they needed a septic system
Right.
and somebody else, the furnace broke, so they needed this,
Yeah.
so it's, you know, it helped them out and we followed the intent for a while.
yeah.
So the next one, Galestown Building and Maintenance. Etc. That's all in progress, I think.
Yeah, my patrons are done for the. season.
Well, I bet, yep. Number 8, create an ongoing annual list. I do think that's a really good idea. And then the annual review of town policies. I don't know if we've missed a spring intern, but that does seem like a really good intern job. You can find somebody and, you know, like kids at Mill River have to do community service. It may be if there's some you know, smart kid who wants an office job.
Well, as we're picking up files around here, I'm trying to make a pile of, you know, all the ordinances we come through, and grants are come through. They've only written about that.
Yes. There you go. We're getting there. All right, I will update that. I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget. Is there anything else we need to add to that list? Heaven help us. Kathy will update for January. New business. Petition to rescind the vote on November 8th. Was received.
They did.
You take it from here.
They did procure the
Minimum.
required number of signatures. You do have to hold another vote within 60 days yesterday.
And
The
did you,
petitioners would really like to have a community meeting to discuss it. Not wait until just before the actual vote.
did they give you any idea of when they would like to do that?
No, I just sort of said it'd probably be after the holidays, because who's gonna come to a meeting between now and Christmas?
Right. So 60 days
Well,
of
I
yesterday is
mean-
February.
I don't know. Today's the 8th, like I don't know. I just
They have
think,
to be able to publicize it and say, we're gonna have a meeting, we're gonna talk about this, and
I would rather do it after. This,
okay,
January.
we already have 2 meetings in January.
I
Let's
know.
have a third. No, we're gonna have 4 meetings in January then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
5, actually, 4, and then a voting day. And we all get to come and count ballots. That's 5. That's why I was saying December, but
Because how many
Whatever.
days, when is 60? 60 days is in January or February?
it's
February.
February 5th or something like that.
Okay.
And you have to have 30 days notice, so you kind of got to decide tonight when you're gonna have it,
Ugh.
right,
because it has to be noticed. I don't have the warrant for you, for
So
the warning for you to sign.
we don't have
Third is-
February.
Oh, right.
Look on the back. Flip it over.
Oh, okay.
I guess
Ooh,
the
it's
other
teeny
part of
writing.
this
Yep.
is. Do we, I think we also need to have time in there for us to have information, like, do we know about moving the location? Can we confirm that?
When I emailed Gary Cupper, our attorney,
yeah,
Well, thank you. It's a little bigger than this one.
and
You should make it really big.
said we had asked Michael Stratton to find out from the bank if they're gonna
Right.
approve it or not.
Yeah.
Could he talk to the bank or could their attorney? So he called their attorney, Marilyn Han, and they have decided that they're not gonna go to the bank until town actually approves it with a vote. Because it's
Okay.
spending legal money, you know. If
Right.
the town says no, then they've spent money for her to go to the bank and figure out
Fine,
whether
figure
they're
it
gonna
out.
do it or not. And I did ask Secretary of State's office if the bank said no, and the contingencies couldn't be met, could you cancel the vote? And he said no.
Right.
So you gotta have the vote one way or the other,
Right.
and so. Pick a day. Pick a couple of days.
Yeah. It just feels like that information is, would be very helpful if we're having a community meeting about it, to have that information.
Right.
To
Well,
be able
it's one
to,
of contingencies and, you know, the bank has to approve it. We don't know if they're going to do it or not.
So
if we don't
60
know-
days is the 29th. Is that what you got?
we don't know if they're going to move it.
We got we
We received it on the 7th.
received it on the 7th,
So 1, 2, 3,
so the 7th of
4,
January.
5, 6, 7. Oh, my bad. Yep. 7 is 49 is 7 weeks is 49. So the 1st is 56. 57, 58, 59, 60. So 60 days is Saturday, the 4th. Is that what you got?
Yeah. we'll see.
Yep. So, it sounds like we want to have, I guess, a meeting in the evening in early January.
Yeah.
Or something. Right now we have a meeting on the 3rd
mm,
and we have a meeting on the 12th.
So can you bunch a little bit of the stuff you would do on the 12th, on the 3rd, and have your meeting on the 12th in case nobody shows up, and then you can have your regular select board meeting?
the
Or-
third was gonna
you
be.
The 3rd was just a budget
Budget.
meeting. I mean, we can change that, but that's what we were thinking. We could do that budget meeting, you know, the week of December 19th, and then have the community meeting on that week of the 3rd.
Well, I need to get tails out so people know it's gonna happen.
Good idea,
You know,
yep.
It's gonna be on front porch forum, but it also needs to be. So I'd say you want. Depends when you're gonna have the vote. What day in
Well-
January are we gonna have the vote? You're gonna have it on Tuesday, you're gonna have it on a Saturday, it's all
Well,
by Australian ballot.
Seeing
so-
as how it's really your gig, what day would you like to have it? Because your deal. And then the question becomes, do we mail the ballots? Which is just
So
Statute
more
says-
money.
Statute says
but it's.
if you have a
know,
recession, you're
Ferris.
supposed
I'm hungry,
to
I'm starving chocolate.
yeah,
mail it to anybody that requests the maps to the ballot. In this case, nobody requested them because they were just mailed automatically.
Very much needs to
So-
Good thing.
And then there's, you know, let's try to be as fair as we can. We mailed them the last time.
But you don't want to mail them until you have your meeting.
Right.
Discuss it, so people know what they're voting on. That was one of the complaints was. People were voting on stuff and they really didn't know what they were voting on.
so. It sounds like we should do budget meeting. In December. And do that 3rd Tuesday. The meeting for this.
And then.
Well, but the
No.
tails need to
Or
get
the
out.
3,
You need to get the notice out that then you're gonna have a meeting and when it's gonna be. It would be better if you had your regular select board meeting on the 3rd and had the community meeting on the 12th.
I don't actually see why that, is that okay with you?
that's fine with me,
I'm
and
looking at
then,
Eric too, yeah.
and then do the budget meeting. In December,
December's getting kind of. There's a lot going on.
Right, I mean,
I know.
I'm not kidding, we're gonna have 5 meetings in January, which is,
right?
A
But how,
lot.
we can't, how far out can we push that budget meeting? We can't.
well, I would say. We need to have, I would have said we should have the budget done by the 12th. Right, so we'll meet on the 3rd and then we'll have a regular meeting on the 12th and we'll finalize it.
But now we're doing our meeting on the 3rd,
And we lost our budget meeting, I
yes,
think. Right, I think,
unless we do it in December.
Where you do it
which is
that.
what I said, let's do it the week of the 19th. Or let's do it next week. I don't know. I don't want 5 meetings in January, that's
Yeah, no,
way
that's
more
fine.
than I'm willing to do. I'm just gonna get sick
Yeah.
or something.
You know, our budget meeting can be like a Christmas present to us.
There you go.
Yep,
If we were to look at next week, what do you know,
Right
What do
now,
you wanna
the
do?
planning commissioners meeting on the 15th.
do people want to do an evening or like I could say Saturday morning. I've tried to meet with Gail on Saturday morning. She is so popular.
Sometimes, and sometimes it's very quiet.
Evening would be.
Better.
I mean. it
All right,
doesn't matter.
so what do you think? The week of the 12th is next week. I am not free on Tuesday. I could do Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Sorry, what day was planning commission? The 15th? So Wednesday, the 14th?
yeah, I can do
We
it.
should be able to get whatever numbers we need together by then. right?
So
Sorry, my trains off the tracks. What are we talking about now?
A budget meeting.
we're moving the budget meeting to Wednesday, the 14th.
Can
And
you,
you can come or not,
but
but
can
we
you,
need your numbers
Yeah.
by then.
Yeah, I should be able to. Next
Okay.
Wednesday?
Yes. And we'll do that at 6.
this is the budget meeting now?
Yes.
I guess we'll do January, can't-
Yeah, well, now we're gonna go to January and we're gonna make the 3rd our select board meeting. At 6, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And then we're gonna make the 12th. An info meeting. And do we want to do it at 6? Or is that not a good time for the general public? I'm
Um,
just asking the question. I prefer 6, but I don't want to be,
I prefer 6 too, but it's not gonna
Criticized.
give enough people time to
Exactly.
get here. So maybe we
6:30.
should do. Yeah. was gonna
I
say
don't think you
7,
can
but-
win. Some people are gonna say, I have to put my kids to bed at 7, and some people are gonna say, I'm not home by 6, so
6:30.
So-
Then you're in the middle.
what's everybody's preference?
Do we want to? Do we want to do that Saturday? And give. It'll be a weekend and it'll give more people opportunity to be here.
You know what happens when you put a meeting on a Saturday? Some people are very thankful and they say, thank you so much, I can come. And other people are like, are you crazy? I'm not ruining my weekend.
Well, yeah, you can't make
So-
everybody happy.
You can't, exactly, you can't make everybody happy. That is exactly the truth. So I wonder what you think. I mean, I don't know what people want anymore. So just tell us
We'll
what
just do it on
you,
the 12th at 6:30. I don't know, unless you think differently.
What do you, I mean, what your experience this Saturday were? Typically or now?
It depends on Saturday, depends if we have a storm, you know, it's.
Right.
It.
Well, so doesn't
people that
this,
can't
I
make it
mean-
Either way, you know.
Right.
Back in the old days, we had a town meeting on Tuesday afternoon, people complained that they. had to
I'd take a
time
day off of work,
Right.
So we
No,
moved it to Saturday, those, the exact same people said, I'm not giving up my day off.
right?
So if they want to make the meeting, they will make an
Make the
effort to
meeting.
come to the meeting.
And where do we need to hold this meeting? How many people do we think we're gonna have?
Probably gonna need the community.
If we go to the
center.
community center, are we booting someone out if it's a Tuesday? Could we
It's
do the old
Tuesday.
firehouse?
It's a Thursday, right?
Sorry, it's a Thursday. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's a
Thursday.
So it'll be pickleball.
Thursday's pickleball.
She's
But they're pretty flexible. Say what?
Some of them
She's
signed a
in town,
thingy ding.
We'd have to move a lot of chairs down there, to have a lot of place for people to sit.
And then,
So are we
All
doing the
right, I'll
12th?
let Rainbow
Yeah.
know
um,
and she can cancel
in terms
pickleball.
of a day for the voting, do you think a Tuesday or Saturday makes a difference, and which one do you prefer? Yeah, just working on a Tuesday versus working voting on a Saturday.
It's, for me, it's a work day.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we did it on the 4th, that would be the most amount of time for community discussion happen.
So
or-
where are we at now? We're talking about the voting aspect. of it?
Yeah, what day to
So-
vote?
So the 12th is 6:30 is nailed down.
Yeah.
Okay.
and so the vote is gonna be.
February.
I'm still way behind.
Well, we could either have the vote on the 31st or the 4th.
I'm still writing to Rainbow to reserve the community center. Okay, that's done. Back to the calendar. I prefer a Tuesday, I believe.
The 31st
Of February.
of January.
Oh,
January 31st. So we'll have to post the warning by January 1st. So if you guys are meeting next week, you can sign the warning then.
good grief.
So then
So
we'll
we'll
count
do the
ballots.
Budget and the warning.
I'm not liking all the dots in February and
On the
January.
meeting, I
Right.
know, it's just like, It's all dot.
So I'm sorry, did I miss when's the
the
legally
So
required?
The legal one has to be within 10 days of the vote, so that's the 31st.
And so just out of curiosity, 10 days would be
21st.
21st. So I mean, we're doing it on the 12th. So we're basically gonna have a meeting on the 12th and the 21st for the exact same thing.
Well, you can just have it on the 21st, you can go up to the 10 days that it's. We just aren't gonna wanna mail out ballots until we've had a. Or decide if we're gonna mail out ballots. They can start requesting ballots as soon as the warning gets published. Ballots have to be ready about 30 days before.
Is this all gonna work for you? Do you want us to squish it out more? Or three more days?
No, that's fine.
Or we vote on the 28th, right? Or no? We don't necessarily have to vote. We could vote a week early. We could vote on the 24th and then the 12th would be fine.
No, because it's 10 days.
Oh, 10 days. then.
So that would mean that. You could vote you could have the meeting on the 12th and you could vote on the 21st. But I
Right. that
don't
wasn't what they
know
were
if, well, but what is it that they're asking? They want to have a community meeting to talk about it and they don't want it to be the night before the vote. I
Right.
totally understand that.
There's not.
I don't think it's. Is there a benefit to holding two meetings in the same month on the same topic?
No,
No,
No, I agree. I think we can
Right.
all agree. So if we work ourselves from the 12th,
Yeah.
10 days from the 12th.
10 days from the 12th would be the 22nd, which is a Sunday. So
do the
we could vote on the 19th, which is a Thursday.
Well,
So what was the,
We could
So
vote
the-
on Tuesday, the 17th.
Or we vote on the 21st on a Saturday.
yeah,
That means Gail has to be open from from 8 to 7 on a Saturday. That sounds horrible.
That's true.
And then we have to count ballots
I-
till 9 o'clock at
What am I
night.
talking about? The
7:30.
19th.
It won't take very
not
long.
gonna do that. They do
Right.
have to have 119 yes votes to.
Right.
And it's
rescind the-
yes to rescind.
Yes to rescind.
Got it.
So-
So I guess I better come look at the calendar here.
oh my God, my brain's gonna explode. All right, so
Oops.
I switched it on.
We need your. Yep, whatever.
Uh,
Your magic code. This is, his calendar is easier because,
big,
well, I can't read those little numbers.
January is pretty big. If we're in January.
Yeah, we haven't actually used February, have we?
So here's January. All right, so.
Right now, we have select board info. And then we were getting ourselves into a tizzy about,
vote,
doing-
10 days before here.
no, that's why I was saying, why don't we vote on the 17th?
but that's not,
Or we vote on the 19th, which is gonna be, doesn't matter what day.
I
Or you,
would guess you have a meeting on the
Right, it's
19th.
a planning commission meeting, but it starts at 7.
The polls close at 7.
Polls close at 7.
Are you allowed to have like shorter hours or anything, or it has to be
They
exactly?
can start,
the
the
same.
Board of Civil Authority can change the morning time. It has to go until 7,
Okay,
but you can start anytime.
Is
between
that 10
5
days,
and
though?
9.
well,
Well,
10
and we
days
have
from
to
the
have
12th.
We have to have 30 days to warn it. So if you're gonna have it on today's the 8th,
We said we're gonna meet,
you've got to put it, it's gotta be in the paper. You've got to figure out how many days that has to be. I don't know if it's the 30-day or the 15 days.
because if we're gonna do the info meeting on the 12th, then you're.
so we're signing the warning on the 14th. So we can't vote before the 14th, but we could have the info here
the vote.
and then the
19th.
vote anywhere between here and 22, which,
Sunday.
Gail, generally, I think Monday is a holiday, so Thursday, the 19th, the trick being there is a planning commission meeting.
Right, and it's gonna be a subdivision hearing that night. probably.
Yeah. You'll just phone yourself for that night. I mean, I suppose we could vote on a Wednesday. It means you're working an extra day. We could move our
Right,
info
so-
meeting, right?
Yep.
And then do like 19 and 23 or 24.
We can do an info meeting on the 19th because there's a planning commission.
And there's an, I think there's an E9 meeting on the 17th.
Yeah,
And if you move the info meeting, what are you gonna back it to, the 10th?
or we do it on the, or we do it, she's either gonna, it's, I guess it is partly whether you want to work a completely new day of the week or a extra long Saturday.
I think a vote on a Saturday is a really bad idea,
Okay.
just because
People
she's
want
gonna have
them.
to find volunteers, right? She's got
But
one check-in,
people-
not two, woo woo. So she's got to check in, she's got to check out.
Right.
She's got to, I mean, it's a lot of people to run an election.
Yeah.
How about, let's go this way. You tell us what day you want to have the vote and we'll work everything back from there.
That sounds
I
good.
mean, really,
Yeah.
right? Like, and when I say when you want to have it, I want you to balance what works best for you and what seems the fairest to the 35 petitioners or however many there were.
Right, well, we could also do voting on, right, do have a couple days in February also, it could be the 2nd
The
of
second
February.
we could do, yeah. Who meets on the first Friday, first Thursday?
Fire department.
I do.
Well-
Well, but that doesn't matter. Well, that just means
Counting
you're
the
gonna be
ballots
counting-
is gonna be,
We're gonna have 150 ballots maybe. That's
and they're gonna put them in two piles, yes and no.
correct.
There you go,
It'll take no time.
10 minutes, yeah, all right. So do you want to do
So-
that? If we have that, then we have to warn it 30 days. That gives you to
January,
second or something like that.
right, because January has 31 days.
Probably want to do it the week before, but we can still sign it on that December day that we're having our budget meeting
14.
next week. And then that'll give you those 2 weeks to get it in the paper. It'll get in the tails. We want to have the meeting with enough time for the, figure the tails comes out in here somewhere.
Right,
Yeah,
Have enough time. So ideally, if we did it on we're gonna vote here. So we said the 2nd, then we need
Yeah.
to be,
be the 24th.
is that 10
Is
days?
10
Yep,
days
1,
out.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so between the 24th and and we're gonna say, why don't we have the meeting on the 4th Thursday? And I'm gonna say, I have a meeting at 5. Which I could skip. If it comes to that.
Is there anybody on the 20, is there anything, okay. Right. So,
I mean, this is, have you already wrangled the town report out to the printer by the 26th? Isn't it
Pretty
that, is it
much,
that
pretty
one or
much.
this one? But usually like,
pretty much they like it by then. I haven't got the schedule from them yet.
mhm,
Price went up a pretty good bit because of price of paper.
mm. This is feeling like we're getting closer, like we should have
right,
the
so we have
info
a vote
meeting.
on the 2nd, info meeting on the 24th.
To me, that just makes it seem like we're making them wait a long time.
So
Some of these people just want to get stuff off their chest and they don't care how people vote one way or another.
okay,
Um,
so
But we just decided we didn't want to have 2 meetings on the same thing, so what's?
we
the
could
best
have
way
an
to do
earlier
that then?
time. We could put it, well, right,
So
We-
if we have it.
if we do
who's
what your
gonna
original
challenge us-
idea
Who's
was,
gonna challenge us if we have it on the 12th and the 24th?
Well, that's 12 days.
I know.
Oh,
Who's gonna challenge us if we miss it?
I
by
have
10
no
days?
idea.
Miss it by
I'm not
10
gonna
days.
be responsible for that. If you want to take it on, perfect.
The
We'll have a
meeting's
little-
being recorded.
Oops, we forgot that part.
Exactly.
So,
I don't know. Anybody have any input on when we have the meeting? Like, we're looking at 5 meetings for the select board in January, which is feeling like too many. So that's why we're struggling.
So can we do the vote on the 24th? And then we would have the meeting on the info meeting on
The 12th, will
12th.
just be a few days off. but that
So
seems-
we're leaving the info meeting on the 12th. And we're doing the vote day on the 24th.
Right.
That seems reasonable
And
enough.
and if that seems weird, then the night before, when I'm setting up for the vote, we'll have an informational meeting for anybody that didn't make the other one. And then our butts are covered. But we don't have to expect anybody to come the night before. But we can warn it that way.
I feel like we should follow the rules. As challenging as it is schedule wise. That's my feeling, but you guys cannot vote. I'll abstain, how's that? You guys decide.
It's not easy to decide and you're in, pushing 4 hours of a meeting.
I mean, I'm also willing to have, let's talk about it and get it off your chest. I think there are a lot of people who have a lot of. There's a lot of misunderstanding, so
Right.
we could clear the air and people could then have a month of, so I would rather have a meeting in December. And then, you know, do it in January when it's convenient, but still meeting the regs. And yes, we're gonna have 2 meetings, but
Yeah,
you know, to your point, we could have the legal one the night before. And
Right.
we can tell everyone at the December meeting, we know you guys all wanted to talk about this. We're required by law to have an info meeting. We will also hold an info meeting the night before the ballot. While we're setting up, you're welcome to come and set up.
And this is Nancy jumping in. That also gives everyone an opportunity to have a discussion on Front Porch Forum if they want to.
so.
Yeah, any other
Decem-
feedback? This is kind of, our brains are a little fried, I think is the truth of it. So.
Yeah.
We set a budget meeting for a day. Why don't we switch why don't we take the budget meeting that we put on Wednesday, the 14th and make that the info meeting?
So now we're doing
Because
The meeting to talk about it. It's
Yeah, we can
not
talk
the
about it.
technical, it's not the legal info meeting. Then you're gonna pick the day that is most convenient for you to have the election and we'll do another legal info meeting the night prior, which is sort of typical.
So you're talking about having the community meeting in December.
I'm suggesting it.
Okay.
I'm not attached.
Want to do it on the 27th?
No, that week is not a good idea. Most people are gone. Many people are gone. Many people are gone.
Our
I think
options are
This is
next
the night
week.
we're buying food at Aldi's.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. We set a meeting for the 14th. Right, we
That's
moved the
next-
budget
that's next
meeting,
Wednesday, that's not giving.
not
people
enough.
time.
Oh, it
We
was
have
the,
We have to
Tails
let them
thing.
know,
was the tails
we
thing,
have to let
right?
them know somehow. I mean, we can do a postcard or a flyer or something that says it's. We don't have to wait for tails, but
Well, but you know, like we sent everyone, and we may have missed a few. I was told by some people that I was wrong. They did not receive a flyer. And, you know, we were still criticized for not sharing the information as soon as we could. So we should do the best we can to share the information best we could. All right, budget meeting is on the 14th. Yes,
Right,
Yes.
so the whole reason we were doing it on the 12th, the info meeting on the 12th was because then we would have
enough time.
enough time to have it in tails.
Right.
Select board meeting on the 3rd, but
Can we vote on the 17th? Or is that too tight for you because you're still trying to finish the town report?
30 days. Would be,
Oh, yeah,
info meeting.
Next week.
as well.
right, well, you could sign the warning on the
5,
14th.
6, 7, 8,
Right.
9, 10.
how soon
and
does
vote
it have
on
to
the
go?
17th. I have to look and see if it's 30 days in the paper ahead of time.
Which you still have time for.
Right, because I could email the Rutland Herald on the 15th and they could have it out on the 17th.
Does it have to be 30 days or it has to be at least
It
30
has
days?
to be between 30 and 60 days.
I see, okay.
No, sorry. You have to act within 60 days. The vote has to be within 60 days. The warning has to be not less than 30 and not more than 40.
before the vote.
before the vote. So for instance, you couldn't warn the vote on the 17th and have it on the 31st of January. It has to be due
Right.
between
So it's
30 and 40.
Gotta be
days.
done in February.
No,
No,
so
it
we
could be
have
done
to
in
warn
January.
it, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 28 by the 18th of February, of December. So we're gonna meet on the
That's a Sunday.
14th,
Right.
so it has to go to the paper on the 15th or the 16th.
Right, so it'll come out on the 17th. And then you're gonna have it on. You have it on the 17th of the 24th.
Except the 24th is 12 days instead of 10.
Over info meeting.
If we do the info on.
Unless we
the
do,
12th,
unless we do the an informational meeting, not as the official one on the 12th, and then we do that.
Oh, on the
Right,
That
the
23rd.
option.
12th is a community meeting to discuss it. The informational meeting can be anytime. you want.
But
Doesn't
I guess I
matter.
don't, I mean, if people
don't
want to do an extra meeting, fine, but
We can fit it in. I just don't know if we can, and just,
I mean, you're fitting it in
So
one,
then
two.
the vote would be on the 17th.
yeah. on the
that would
17th.
be my suggestion. And if you want to do it on the 24th, I'll just abstain. That's fine.
I'm not attached to the 24th.
I'm just worried that you're still in the midst of the town report on the 17th.
What about the 23rd?
I think the 23rd is 11 days, so you're,
Oh, so Saturday is the first, okay,
Hmm,
Saturday's 10.
How do you feel about the 17th?
17th is fine.
Let's do it on the 17th.
Is that vote day?
Yeah, vote day 17, meet day 12. Select board meeting the 3rd.
Oh, he's probably trying to say something and
he can't tell us what he thinks.
his
What other meetings happen in
Hello?
January? You're saying
Hey.
5 meetings, missing one?
Well, we were gonna have select board budget info. And then another info, and then
Oh,
we're
right.
all JPs, so we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to work the polls, that's 5.
Right.
So I think we got it down to 4, and Gail says it's. Not gonna take very many people to count the dogs, so
right, I think we've got it figured out that
We're all
we're down
JPs.
to the right numbers.
ask him if he likes those, the ideas. Get an unbiased opinion from a listener.
Right. Okay, you want me to put you on speakerphone so you can say it yourself? Okay.
And our info meeting is still the 14th, correct?
Thursday the 12th
I mean, our
So are you
info,
with
our
that?
budget meeting is
Okay.
the 14th,
of December,
correct? I'm asking.
I believe so,
Okay, so budget meeting the 14th
at 6,
at 6.
Okay,
and then info
Thank you.
meeting
Informational meeting on the 12th. Voting
at
on the
6:30, and and we have select board meeting on the
Okay.
3rd at 6.
Yeah.
bye.
And then we have voting
Our
on the
regular. select
17th,
board meeting.
and maybe Gail will pull the Board of Civil Authority together, so at least it's 10 to 7 instead of 8 to 7
Okay,
There's
Will
some
you do
people
that
like- some
here?
People like to come.
on their way to work.
Yeah.
I remember Judy Fox in particular saying, "What do you mean you're not open? I'm on my way to work."
okay, so info's 12.
Info is the 12th. We're voting on the 17th. We have a regular select board meeting on January 3rd. We're having a budgetary meeting next Wednesday, the 14th. And that's all of them.
Did Rick have a piece of feedback he wanted to share?
Actually, it was Michael.
Oh, did Michael
he's-
have a piece of feedback?
He
wanted to
did. He
share?
says he does not think the select board chair should recuse herself from any discussion on this matter.
I was abstaining. It's sort of different,
Abstaining,
but yeah.
whatever it was.
Okay, so,
Okay,
We're set. We did it.
so
So-
special budget meeting is 14th.
next Wednesday,
You know, select board meeting is the 3rd.
the 3rd. Cause you have a fire department meeting on the
The
5th.
12th is info meeting, 17 is vote day.
That's the, I think the E and I is supposed to meet that.
And we're doing another info meeting.
No,
We're not
No,
gonna
we're
do
not,
another.
no,
meeting.
because we fit it all in to be within 10 days. So it's just
we
those.
squeezed it in within, so it's within 10
And I
days.
will say, if people ask you, and between now and the 14th, you get horrible feedback. How could they have done that? That's not what we wanted. We can change it on the 14th, because we won't have warned anything officially until then. And I think our thought process is very clear and shared with you that we all felt that it was very important that Tails come out with it, it go in Front Porch Forum, it go in Tails, it go in the paper, that we have time to talk about it, and then we'll vote. And we're well within the legal limits, and our hope is that it will meet everyone's requirements. Now, I will say that Kyle said to me, I just want this over by New Year's. And
That's not gonna happen.
there are a lot of
Right.
reasons why that can't happen.
Right.
I mean,
It
to
can't
say
happen
nothing of the
because
fact
it's-
that we have to go through this process and then restart negotiations with the Stratton. Assuming
That's
they
the
wanna
it's a
negotiate.
yes vote or a no vote. So
Yeah.
Right.
if it's a no vote, or if it's. If they
Yes
vote
to
re- if
rescind
they
it.
Vote to rescind it, then
we're done.
we're done.
There you go.
It's like,
So it's the biggest problem with, but we'll just have to tell people if they want an absentee ballot, they can ask for it.
right,
Okay,
But
let's
they're not gonna
decide
get
if
the
we're gonna mail
information.
ballots.
We don't mail the ballots because they're not gonna have the information. That was one of the.
Because it's not gonna
criticisms the
have enough
last time
time.
was We mailed all the ballots out and before anybody had a chance to talk about it. So now they're.
It's gonna have to be an in-person vote. Unless
Yeah,
they
no, they
request
can
that,
do-
They can
right,
request an
right,
absentee ballot,
right,
Right.
and I can mail it to them. I mean, the ballots
Right.
are gonna be available.
and then we
Just-
just put that
So
out
people that
there,
wanna vote, without the meeting can vote without the meeting.
right, so just put that in,
Are we going to be criticized for not mailing the ballots when the ballots were mailed for the last one? I mean, that's why I'm suggesting that.
Well, we mailed them the last time because the state had mailed all
Agreed.
that, the general election ballots. So
Right.
that's why we mailed them. Wallingford did not mail out ballots for their special election on whether Florence Avenue should be one way. I don't know how that turned out, but I don't know how many people.
I don't
actually
know,
voted, but had
I
to
just
go
read they
vote
had to
for it.
have another whole election because they had to tie for justice of the peace.
No.
And like
When we had a-
100 people voted.
When we had a tie for justice of the peace, one of them stepped down.
Could flip a coin, guys.
so they could request the ballot,
They can
And then
request
just-
a ballot.
right, and then just. Put something in like Front Porch Forum or something, so they know they can do that,
Are we
Right, they'll
required
give
by
you-
law to,
Yeah, you have to
Remind
let people, yeah.
yeah.
we're gonna follow the letter of the law?
I mean, we can mail the ballots out and say, please don't vote on this until you come to the meeting on the 12th. And then send them back, but
People are gonna do what people are gonna do. I mean,
Well, no, and I just
well,
wanna do it as absolutely as fair as we can.
I mean, we sent a letter the last
No, I
time and
know,
we
but-
said, please call any select board member or ask Gail if you have any questions and we'll have an info meeting to discuss it. And you had X
At
number
the-
of people
at
talk to
the-
you.
at the meeting on the 13th, as you saw on my notes, I was trying to get you guys to have a meeting, a community meeting, but by the time we got to it at the end of the meeting, it was like, never mind.
What month are we talking about? 13th
October.
of October.
The 6th is when you had your meeting and we mailed stuff
Right,
out.
so
By
we
the
were on our
13th
second meeting
By
of the
the
month.
13th,
Yep.
yes, and people were not happy with things and so
Right.
we ended up not having a meeting till the night before when 5 people showed up.
Right, which, it's really good to remember that it can be 10 days. Like I just had in my brain that you always have the info meeting the night before.
That's because that's what most.
That's what we've
people do.
always done. Well. Since
And
we've been.
and part of
doing it
that
this way.
is because ballots aren't mailed out ahead of time. A few
Yeah.
people
Right.
would ask for absentee ballots. Most people would be coming to vote the
Right.
next day.
Right.
So the process has just changed. Due to mailing vote ballots. And obviously, many people like that because we had excellent turnout.
Yeah, we had 74%. And 2/3 of those voted early.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay,
Okay,
uh, ratify appointment of Michael. Thank you, guys. That took a long time. Ratify appointment of Michael Fannin and Ray Pratt to the Regional Emergency Management Committee. So moved.
second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Holiday bonus, I would like you all to think about, no, don't think about this. It's easy. We always do the same thing, which is everybody gets,
Ham?
I think, $100. Is that what it is?
$80. You can't give out stuff. You have to give out money because it's taxable and it got really complicated, so.
do we also have to specifically make sure that the select board assistant gives themselves a bonus also?
Yeah, select board assistant.
Just wanted to make sure that specifically the select board assistant was
Thank you,
included
We
in
should
that,
give everybody
in
picture
case.
how many hams.
wasn't clear.
Well, who gets it is the road crew, the dump guys, and the people who work in the office.
And if you were clever, you would get a treasurer bonus and a select board assistant bonus
Select board
and
will get
a
it.
town clerk bonus and a zoning administrator bonus. What are we up to? $500. Woohoo! So do you want to make that motion?
What am I
Holiday
motion-
bonus?
Yeah, I will make a motion that we do a holiday bonus of $100.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Are there any feedback forms?
No,
Anyone have any concerns? Members' concerns?
You're not.
Miscellaneous correspondence and mail, Stan and Reen and Colleen.
there's one thing in there someplace, I think, from Barbara Pulling at the Regional Commission about that. Then you asked if anybody was available to go to.
Yep, here it is, the energy grant we've been waiting for.
Where is it in
It's
the?
the last page. I hope that they will report it and then someone could go later. I would be willing to write to Barbara and say, please record it, no one can attend, and keep us posted on the requirements of the grant. And then we'll just.
Yeah,
later.
agree with that by consensus.
Perfect.
So Stan and Reen are donating a picture that was created for the Rutland Courthouse. They hired somebody to do each town in the county, and so there's a picture of the Tinmouth picture, and they had it. They're gonna donate it to the town, so I said we could put it in the old firehouse. I don't remember what it's of, but I think it's of the center area.
Nice.
Thank you, Stan and Reen.
And Colleen Vault stopped in with an American flag and a Vermont flag, because she took possession of all of your father's flags, and so she made a donation to the town in memory of him. So we have flags now. I think she's gonna give them to the school and firehouse and maybe the town garage or something. She had six.
She has
six, so-
A lot of flags, I'll say.
Are they
that.
big?
They're
Yeah,
like for the
big.
flagpole, the
Nice.
standard on the flagpole,
Right.
kind of.
But-
Did you ever drive by my dad's house? He was very
Yes.
into flags.
Yes.
She,
Yeah, but I've
she
always wanted.
decided that she was the appropriate person to have them all,
That's
and she
perfect.
does.
I was,
So
I
there you
always wanted one for the fire department, so.
Oh, well,
I think Colleen
Perfect.
said she was gonna give them to you, but I'm not sure.
well, I have a Vermont flag that what happens is if you leave them up for a long time, they get kind of ratty on the ends.
yeah.
And so my dad gave me one and he said, would you please re-hem this? And I have it. So if you're stuck, I could hem it for you and then you could have it.
Well, anyways,
Executive session.
so do you want the budget revised before the meeting so you can look at it?
If you have any new numbers and if Eric has any numbers, I would love to have those numbers a few days before that meeting, if possible.
That
So
would be
Monday.
maybe?
Yep. Yep. I do have one
Oh.
executive session thing, which is personnel related.
Okay.
So I would make a motion, we move to executive session for personnel and it'll take like 5 minutes. And just the three of us. Would you like? Eric, if you leave, bye.
Okay.
Thanks for saying.
Yep. We don't want these.
You can't go over them.
I know. I just stash them somewhere.
They can just sit down.
I'm gonna go home and eat dinner.
Yeah, I can do that even. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Sure. Yep, okay. Right. I'm just gonna let the computer run. I'm gonna walk away from it. Right. It can just run on its own. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. Bye. So what can't you hear? No, somebody was fiddling with the owl earlier, so. Let me, right, let me see if I can. There's the microphones. I think there's a little plus button. Is this, am I getting louder now as I'm talking? Did it get any louder? I'm talking? No? Well, it's a plus and a minus, so. That's all I see. But that is the best way to test it if somebody's on there. So I'm closer now. Does that make a difference? All right, so if I'm back here, does that make a difference? Can you still hear me? Is it still muted? Right. Okay. I might be able to check with the owl company to find out how to make it come in better. Okay. All right. Bye. So I guess we're still recording while the executive board, the board is in executive session.
I make a motion, we come out of executive session.
Second that motion.
I would accept a motion to adjourn, unless there's anything.
Second that motion.
On favor?
Hi.
Thank you all. That was long.
Sure.
Gail, did you end up with the speed stuff that you needed?
I gave her, yeah.
Okay. Don't do that, we don't do that. Ay. Thank you all, especially you, Gail, you must be starving. I'll bring you a peanut butter sandwich next time if you want. No.
Do you need anything for the way?
Hi, you all, the recording is still going. Sorry.
Thank you, bye.
Bye, thank you.